Welcome back to the Fast Life Podcast. Told you guys we'd be back on Thursday, and we did it. Good times, man. Now is a great time to support small businesses, like my dude John Jessup and his shop in Stockton, California, which is the spot for in-house dyno tuning, parts, service, and bike sales. TeamDreamRides.com is a great place to dump some of that stimulus cash, which I know some of you got yesterday, or take advantage of the 100 days same as cash financing on all products. All you need is a job and a bank account, and don't forget to give John and his team over there a follow on Instagram at DreamRidesJohn. Check them out. Lexan Moto is growing fast and looking to onboard new dealers this year. Their headsets and charging solutions are ideal in any type of motorcycle shop, big or small, and Lexan has dealer plans to meet your needs. With products that make the riding experience better and more on the way, Lexan offers very competitive dealer margins, fast shipping, and great customer service. Email them at sales@lexanmotorcycle.com and be sure to check them out on Facebook at Lexan Moto USA, Instagram at Lexan Moto, and don't forget, if you just want to pick up a dope-ass headset or charging solution for your bike, go to Lexan Moto, lexan-moto.com, and use Fast Life at checkout to save yourself 15% off your order. Paint Huffer Metal Flake is killing the paint game. So are we, but you know, who's paying attention? With tons of great flakes, pearls, and other paint-related products, if you're stuck at home wanting to possibly pick up a trade or hobby, check out painthuffer.com to see the vast amount of custom paint-related products and get yourself stocked up with tape and other items needed in the custom paint process. And don't forget to use FastLife13 at checkout for 10% off, as well as give them a follow on Instagram under Paint Huffer Metal Flake. As I have said many times, ThunderMax is the upgrade ECM for your EFI-equipped Harley-Davidson. That's a mouthful, I know. New exhaust, cams, throttle body, you name it, a ThunderMax will dial in the necessary adjustments needed to keep your HD running tip-top. Tip-top. Another advanced product from the T-Max camp is their iRide rear suspension system that auto-adjusts height and is the best of performance and comfort in the air ride scenario. I don't know why I'm struggling with that. To get more info on these products and to see the other products available to enhance your HD experience, head on over to shoptmax.com and follow ThunderMax EFI on Instagram. We're coming down to the wire. We got exactly 1 week until the Fast Life Campout. It's still going on. I talked to Adam Sandoval. It's fucking happening. You know, it's happening. I don't know how the world's going to take it that, you know, bikers are doing things against the grain. I don't know. We'll see. I don't give a shit. If you want to go, it's Thursday, April 23rd through the 26th at Kriver Campground in Moyers, Oklahoma. And to my knowledge, from all these sources that I've gotten, there are not any border controls anywhere. Maybe in New York and shit like that. I don't know. I could be speaking out of my ass. Figure it out. If you want to go, there's going to be a lot of people there from all over the country. Still. And like I said a million times before, I don't make any money on this camp out. This is so you guys can meet, ride, and just feel like you're hanging out with all the people you follow on Instagram. That's pretty much what it is. It's a great time. I enjoy it. And I enjoy just having the opportunity to meet a lot of people, ride, party, getting deep conversations, drunk, you know, that go nowhere. That shit sounds like fun to me. So if it sounds like fun to you, you should come or try or fucking just do it. If you're an adult, you know. Good times. I also want to say real quick that, you know, we've always been dealers for Simpson helmets, and just recently I've been trying to put it out there that we do sell the helmets. So if you're interested in just, you know, getting yourself a Simpson helmet, you know, hit us up. We can hook you up. By hook you up, I'm going to charge you exactly what they cost because that's how that works. But if you want to buy from us, you want to support us, that's an option. Also, Dream Rides John sells Simpson helmets. If you want to go to him, he's got the 100 days same as cash. He can get you dialed in there. And I want to say our guest today, Tucker Speed, also sells Simpson helmets. What I want to do is help Simpson continue to sell and push their brand and products out there. Simpson Motorcycles helmets is killing it right now, but Simpson, the race car side of it, is taking a huge hit with the absence of the, you know, motorsports industry happening this year. So in my efforts to try to help a brand that I know and love very dearly, I just want to help push out their shit, is, get as many Simpson helmets on people's heads as possible. So if you want to go through us, shoot me a DM, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, and I'll get you dialed in, get one sent right to you. If you want to go through one of the other people I just mentioned, do it. Have a good time. And like I just said, this podcast is with, I think his name is Tony. I didn't, it's one of those things, we talk for 2.5 hours, and I never go, hey, bro, what's your name? I just know him by his Instagram name, Tucker Speed, who built one sick-ass Road King that looks like an FXR, but it's fucking dope. And I saw it first at Sturgis last year at the V-Twin Visionary Expo, the V-Twin Visionary Show, and I was, I thought it was a dope look. I mean, it was a really good, solid-looking bike. Like, a good bike to me is when you see it and you go, fuck, I want to ride that. That's what I felt. So I'm happy to finally get a chance to talk to this dude and see what life is like in Ogden, Utah. And on this podcast as well, I will warn you guys, Skype was like super popping last night. So basically, there was a lot of like dropped calls a little bit. It was like almost every 10 or 15 minutes, it would like drop it for just a second or two. So bear with us. Great conversation, though. So, I won't brag about it. You guys check it out. Here he is, Tucker Speed. Peace. Not peace. Just check it out.
Hey, guys. You ready to let the dogs out?
Fast Life Podcast.
I hear you now.
You can hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, cool.
Dude, it's there's a button on here that was on mute, and I'm not an audio scientist. So
yeah, me neither.
I'm just like hitting shit and moving knobs, and it's just a fucking mess, man. How you guys doing there?
We're doing good, man.
Cool.
We're hanging in there.
How is it? You're just north of Salt Lake, right? Ogden is what it is?
Yeah, Ogden's the town we're in. So yeah, we're like 50 miles north of Salt Lake. I mean, us Ogden people like to think that, Ogden's the place to be, not Salt Lake. So, yeah. Ogden's a little more blue collar, kind of, more industrial area, stuff like that. So,
yeah. How far are you from like the Wyoming border?
Like an hour. I can be across the border in Evanston.
Nice. Riding pretty good there. I mean, you got fucking Yellowstone down the street, is what it seems like.
Oh yeah, like I've always told people that, like right where we're at right here, like we're like killer, because yeah, we can go north and be in like Yellowstone, Jackson Hole, Montana, all those places, and we can go south into like Zion.
Yeah.
All central Utah, southern Utah is all killer riding. So yeah, all that stuff's
We're actually on our Sturgis trip this year. We were actually going to wait till like the Monday. So I think the V-Twin Visionary Show will be on like a Monday, like it was last time, and then we're gonna dip out there and then go to this little place right before you do the Big Bear Pass, Beartooth Pass. I'm sorry,
Big Beartooth,
Bear Pass.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then we're gonna do that, and then camp in Yellowstone in one area. I think it's like West Fork or something like that, or I don't know. We had it all pulled up, but we're going to be kind of working our way down. But instead of going into Utah, we're going to cut back over into like Colorado and spend some more time there this time. Dude, Colorado's nice, man. I have so much fun riding through there.
Yeah, Colorado's got some killer roads for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking amazing there. So what, man, like I said, I'm kind of, today's been a shit day, man. I'm going to be real with you.
All right.
It's been like, I've got a couple FXRT fairings, like the aftermarket ones, and they do not like to be painted, straight up. They don't like to be painted. They're fucking like this really awkward thing to try to get paint guns in all the cracks and crevices to get it a nice, clean finish.
Get a nice, clean layer laid down without leaving bare spots and too heavy in this spot type stuff. Yeah,
exactly. And then, so we did this Dyna that was like this... like a battleship gray. I never get it if it's gunship or battleship gray. Just one of those grays, right?
I guess, yeah, whatever.
The Harley one. Well, we did this Dyna, and then we shipped it to the parts, and then UPS just fucking like suplexed this box, man. They didn't give two fucks about it. So it cracked the fairing in one spot, so he sent it back for us to fix it. We fixed that spot, re-clear it, and then bam, there's another crack over here. So we got to take it apart and fix it, and then we check everything, and then the clear reveals a lot of things. And it's just been kicking my fucking ass, man. Just trying to get it dialed in because this dude spent a lot of money, and it's a really nice part. But yeah, UPS did not do me any favors on that one. And you know what?
Nice.
When you put like insurance on the stuff,
Yeah.
it's like it takes so long to get it paid out, and it takes so long for anything to come of it that it's like not even worth it. Because it's like if you're trying to build it for Daytona and I send it to you and we still have 2 weeks for Daytona, maybe you can ship it back, we can fix it and get it back to you. Well, the way it works with them is like I have to leave it visible, do a claim, wait for that to come through. Like I can't really do anything to the family.
You can't touch it. Yeah.
So it's not really worth it. But we, most of the stuff we do, we ship out of state, and we've literally maybe only had like 3 incidences out of maybe 30. So, 10% is not really, that's a good odd for what we do. You know what I mean?
It's pretty good. I mean, and you can't blame the UPS. I mean, it's not, they're just doing their deal, but it's tough. Couple paint jobs out of 30, that's still going to add up at the end of the day. But what do? You can't let the fairing just sit there and go through an investigation for a couple of weeks. Like you got to get your shit turned around,
Yeah, exactly. So it's a crazy mess, man. But you guys, man, like I've, Scott Holbrooks, the guy that does a lot of stuff for Simpson, good friend of mine. Yeah. And so I saw the bike, the one right behind you. I saw that bike for a couple of months before I even knew your shop. You know what I mean? Because I saw the bike at the V-Twin Visionary show in Sturgis last year, and I was nerding out on it because I walked by it twice before I realized that it wasn't actually it was a bagger that had that that you just dialed it in and made it look the way it looked. And then I started following you guys, and like no shit, like I'm not trying to stroke you off right now, but like the way y'all shop is set up, just that old gas station vibe look is totally like my shit, man. Like I'm on Pinterest all the time looking at old, cool, remodeled spots like what you got, man. So
yeah,
it's dope.
Yeah, the building's fun, man. We've had a ton of fun, like with the building itself. The thing that sucks is that I don't own it. Yeah. I just rent this spot. I've done a ton of remodeling and refinishing stuff inside to get it to kind of look like it is, but to kind of keep the authentic, like kind of vintage feel. Like I didn't want it to look like a brand new building. Yeah. So a lot of times we purposely did things kind of shitty to make it look, kind of rough and old and run down. And, so like it was kind of a challenge to keep the vintage feel.
Yeah. You ever feel like some of that shit goes through waves? Like sometimes like everything all create like, I guess it would be kind of like interior design. It has like your vintage vibe or your contemporary vibe. And it kind of, I always find myself in between both. Like, I like that old dude shopper garage with nothing but like David Mann pictures from Easy Rider magazines and carburetors hanging down and just like this over cluttered look. To me, like that's a very creative space for me. But so is a nice like the way my shop is now. It's kind of going more towards a gallery type idea, like photo on the wall, nice light hitting it, space in between the next one. And I don't know which one I want to do more, man, but I like how your shit is dialed in because you could sit there for a while and just look at all the cool shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that was kind of my vision in the beginning. Like I wanted the shop to be somewhere where like it was a destination for riders to be like, yeah, let's just go hang out there. We'll check out some of the pieces of art that are hanging on the wall or, whatever, like it creates a vibe that people want to come and hang out. Like they feel, comfortable here. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's the one thing like in our area, like I really want it to be a destination. I mean, all of us that ride, like, when we're not like on long rides or whatever, you're just out, like on a Saturday night, like you want to hop on your bike with all your guys and you need somewhere to ride to. Like, where are we going to go? It's like, well, we can go to the bar.
Losing them. Gotta love this quarantine.
For a lot of rides.
I lost you for a minute there. You there?
There, I got you. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm here.
Fucking Skype thing, man. It's shitty sometimes, but the audio in Skype is way better than a phone call. So it's like, what are you gonna do? But yeah, no, I get it.
You're probably gonna edit all this out, anyways, right?
Fuck no, man. I
just run it.
Yeah, well,
Just keep it raw.
it is. I mean, to me, it's like it's kind of like when you start editing something, you start editing a lot, right? You're like, oh, well, let me make this sound better. And it's like, I don't have time to do that. I mean, like I said,
Yeah.
me and you were just talking a while ago, and like you got a shop full of people. I had a shop full of people. Like I
Yeah.
want to have this conversation and I want to be present for it. It's like, to me, it's about just getting the conversation however it is, not so much about like this perfection thing. Like I'm going to go get a song and put it in the background when we talk. I ain't got time for that shit, man. You know what I
Man,
mean?
you should just write a script and send it to me, man.
Yeah, there you go. At that point. So how, just a good, because I know everybody, we're all doing this live shit out the ass right now. And the only reason I haven't really gone too much of watching, like say the ones that you've done with V-Twin Visionary and the one you did with I watched some of the one we did with Brian from TPJ, but I want to learn too as I get to know you. So if I go watch all this shit and I get to know you, then these questions seem irrelevant.
You've heard all the stories? Yeah.
Exactly. So, for the sake of myself and getting it firsthand, plus my listeners that may have not had the chance to listen to your stuff too, I wanted to kind of get that background story first and foremost, and then we can just see where it goes. So
Yeah.
where are you originally from there?
Yeah. Born and raised right here. My family has a lot of roots right here in this area. So yeah, I moved out of state. I went to Phoenix for a couple years when I went to MMI.
Yeah.
But I had a daughter from a previous marriage that was, she was the main reason I came back here. Is, I wanted to be close to her.
Yeah.
This isn't necessarily like when I was at MMI, like this area doesn't have a ton of jobs.
Yeah.
In the motorcycle industry. So it wasn't like the best case to, end up here, trying to pursue a career in this industry. But I knew I wanted to be there for my daughter. I mean, she was 5 at the time. And especially being gone for a couple of years, like that really was the reason I knew I wanted to be here for her. So I grew up here, came back here, unfortunately, really the only jobs in the industry here are dealership jobs.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of where I ended up. So yeah, born and raised right here in Utah.
You're able to pull from Salt Lake pretty well too. And I would think Idaho Falls, is that a pretty big town, or Boise or any of that?
Yeah, Boise's got a pretty good little scene there, but like southern Idaho, we pull from there a little bit from like West Wyoming, like the Evanston area. I got a few guys that roll out of from there, and my radius of customer base is growing as we get bigger and more well known, for sure.
Yeah, it seems like it's working out. The thing for, I guess, a lot of us, especially like our listeners and myself, is that we end up going down this more performance rabbit hole with the people we follow on social media, and then it's kind of cool to see. Like when we think about performance bikes, man, you kind of think about the hotbeds like, California, Phoenix, and, maybe you'd say like, Boston has a pretty gnarly scene with like, all the guys up there that do shit, Barnstorm, all that. And then you got, I would say like we're kind of like the guys out on the cusp, like way out there in the cut, You're up there in Utah there, and we're in Dallas, which is kind of a big motorcycle town, but it's definitely not a performance motorcycle town. If you had a big wheel or something, like we're a hub for that, for sure,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
How is it
and
feeling?
It's been cool here.
Yeah.
Because I would say like the performance Harley scene here, I mean, and not to brag or anything, but I would say before I opened my shop was pretty much non-existent in northern Utah.
Yeah.
The biker community, the biker culture in this area, I'd say is like pretty old school, like baggers, your traditional ape hangers, assless chap type dude, that kind of your old school biker. And, so we came on, and we've been building putting Dynas and performance baggers and FXRs, and we do a ton of Sportsters and but everything we kind of do is really more performance minded, and we kind of created our own performance scene here in the state, because no other shop in our state was doing that stuff.
Oh, for sure. I think the only other guys I know up there is like the Raw 10 Garage dudes, and they're more of a paint shop over there in Salt Lake.
Yeah, he's a paint shop. He's the one who actually painted my Road King.
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine. He helped us out big time. We came through last year on our trip to NorCal. We rode through there and had some issues. He let us use the shop. Had to change some wheel bearings out of a bike. Long story.
Yeah, John's a good dude. He's a good friend of mine. Like I said, he hooked me up and painted my Road King for me. You know, he kind of saw the potential in the build and wanted to be a part of it, and was like, yeah, I'll paint it. You just tell me what you need and I'll make it happen. So yeah, you know, and he does some killer paint work. I like working with John. He's a good dude.
Solid guy. So would you think that you kind of pulled, like, were you always into the performance things, or was that something that kind of came with being in Phoenix, kind of amongst all that kind of, you know, heavy industry
because when I was in Phoenix like 2004, 2005.
Oh, that was not that.
It was no performance Harley anything. Like, it was like kind of the end of like the chopper phase, kind of early stretch bagger stuff maybe.
Yeah.
And maybe not even that, thinking back, you know, but yeah, I mean, there wasn't really anything performance, you know, and I was never really like a big wheel bagger dude. Like, I just never really got into it, you know. My background, like, I grew up racing motocross. I did a lot of drag racing as a kid. My dad got us into it. Actually started because, you know, there's a lot of sand dune area around us, so we were always riding sand dunes, you know. And when we were kids, we'd go to the sand dunes, and, you know, and early on, like, we saw dudes like, you know, what we call Sand Mountain. Yeah. Dudes racing up the hill, you know, and we're like, let's go race. Like, we were always kind of race minded. So we're like, let's go race these guys. So that kind of snowballed. We started building bikes that were faster and faster to run the hill. Then we got hooked up with this, you know, an actual like sand drag association that was a legit series. We ran that for like 7 or 8 years as kids. I mean, my dad would just load me and my brothers up in the motorhome and haul us around the country. Yeah. And we would do these sand drags, you know. And so, yeah, like, growing up, like, everything I've always done has always been like performance based, like making it go fast, handle well, get traction, all that type of stuff. So that's why I'm really digging this new kind of scene, this new phase of the Harley world. Performance stuff is, it's like taking, I mean, I love Harley Davidsons, don't you know what I mean? Like, they're one of my favorite things in the whole world. And now that I get to make them faster and handle better and all that type of shit, like, it's perfect for me. Yeah, it actually is, man. It's one of those things because, you know, I guess it's kind of been a topic of conversation for the last couple of weeks. It's funny because I've been seeing a lot of backlash from like the other industries, you know, like the big wheel, the leftovers from the big wheel world are kind of, you know, still talking shit like, all these FXRs and these performance baggers, they look stupid. They're never going to go anywhere, blah, blah, blah. I see these posts and all these Facebook chat rooms and shit. And I'm sitting here looking at like every big shop I know of starting to finally put a toe in this shit to get a feel for it. A lot of shops have done big motors, you know what I mean? I've seen radial brakes on bikes and stuff, but there's still this thing that they would do that shit, but then they would put a fat front tire on the bike, right? Yeah. Or they put air ride on it, or they put a big wheel on it, or they just, you know, it just was always like missing like one component, and it's usually the component that completely throws it off balance, basically, for being a performance bike, you know? Yeah, it's like they almost got there, but they had to like leave like a little bit of who they were in the past on the bike, you know? Yeah, and you know, like, you know, I love these guys to death. My buddies over at DA Performance, they built some sick-ass baggers, sick bikes, period. But last year at SEMA, they kind of did a performance bagger, but they put some dirty air ride on it. And I was hitting up Chuck because he was sending me pictures of all this dope shit they did. I'm like, yo, what's up with the dirty air on the back? He goes, man, I can't fully commit to the performance thing. And I'm like, dude, that suspension, when you put bad ass suspension on your bike, changes it, just makes it fucking ride so well, man. Here we go. Lost it again. I lost you. I got you there. I'm back. All right. Yeah. I had a good point. I lost it. No, it's all good, man. No, it was
Yeah, to say the least, man. It's just it's very interesting seeing people start to take on this this trend or this subgenre of bikes and see what they do with it and take it to another level. You know what I mean? So, like I said, the one behind me, man, like that shit was. I still think it's a fucking dope ass bike, and the picture I want to use for this is that picture of you riding it at Simpson last year. Not Simpson, Sturgis, with your Outlaw Bandit on there. It's just like a picture of you riding. That's a fucking dope shot, dude.
It really, that shot turned out so killer. And unexpected. Like I wasn't even planning on getting, photos taken that day. And it just, the chick that was doing the photo shoot was actually shooting a bunch of stuff for Jeff.
Yeah.
And, I just happened to be along for the ride and she started snapping some photos, which was cool. So, yeah.
So how, like, when did you start the actual Tucker Speed? Like, when did you actually kick that off?
I've been open for 5 years now. It is, so 2015 is when I opened.
Nice.
So, and we've grown a ton, in 5 years, but I still look at it like I'm not even halfway there yet. You know what I mean?
Oh, I understand completely.
I'm always pushing for, what's next, the next level, like, and I get, and, some of my, my brothers and my friends and my wife, like, they're like, you set all these goals and before you even get to the goal, you've already pushed the goal out to the next level. So you never like appreciate when you hit that milestone. Like, and I always find myself like, all right, like, whether it's a number or a piece of equipment or whatever it is I want to buy, like I got it, but I don't celebrate it because now I'm already focusing on the next one.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And I think a lot of guys, like you and I that are probably, that's just how our brains work, like.
Well, once you hit that goal, there's really no, I mean, most goals, like, and I can go on with you with this idea, this concept for hours, but most goals don't have a pot of gold at the end of it. You know what I mean? So it's like once you hit the goal, it's more like it's just a step. It's a step.
It's not an end point.
And the other thing is like a lot of goals, some of the longer term ones, by the time you reach them, like that has to evolve into a new goal. And especially with our industry, man, I wouldn't say it changes quickly. I think it just moves quickly. You know what I mean? And you got to be on it. So like, a goal of mine might be, okay, I need to be able to set things up so I can afford to go to Sturgis this year. That's a goal. And then you hit it, and then then the V-twin visionary shows fucking 3 weeks later, and then you got to figure out how to pull that off. And then this is on, and you know what I mean? There's all these things that go on. So for us, at least, goals at least have been trying to find a way to stay relevant in person at these events, still manage to put out the work that we do, and stay sane, and try to be a little bit innovative or build something. Like, dude, I don't even have time to build my own bike right now, man, and that's weird for me. Because I've just always been able to set aside a week or two to just dive in only on my shit and work on it. And now I feel like I'd have to ask permission from all my customers to, hey man, think I can have a week of myself? Let's just call it a vacation.
Yeah. Yeah. And I definitely don't have that kind of time to like dedicate to like my own build. Like, trying to run this business and, I think the one disadvantage I have right here is just like, the population density of northern Utah. Like there isn't a ton of people here.
Yeah.
So therefore there isn't a ton of riders. So to try and run a profitable business is just a grind every day. You know what I mean?
Have y'all set up like an online store and everything yet and done that stuff?
That's in the works right now.
Yeah.
That's been something that me and my wife. So my wife works here with me full time. She kind of runs the front end. Does some of the retail stuff, and we're building an e-commerce site now to kind of branch into that world. Yeah. We just kind of looked at it like all these online retailers are selling the exact same parts that we have accounts with all these same parts. Like, why are we not online?
The reason I was always against it for the longest, and I've only opened up to it now because that's the way that our industry and the world's going. But the thing is, like when we use social media, we build like let's just say, for lack of a better term, a following of people that dig what we do and they want to support us in some kind of way. Maybe they buy your hat and your shirt and your hoodie, but if they're in Iowa or they're in Florida and they really dig what you're about, but they want to get a Simpson helmet and you're a dealer, bam, it's all coming from the same warehouse, no matter who you buy it from. You know what I mean?
Right.
But the thing is that these people, instead of complaining about people not doing shopping at brick and mortars, now I think we're past the point of it ever being that way. Like, we're never going to be able to go back to
it's
where,
not going back.
Yeah. So I guess if shops are going to bitch about anything, just give customers the options to buy from you, and then look at your market now as a nationwide market and try to sell helmets, try to sell, whatever you have to offer to these people, and let the people support you that way,
Yeah. And that's pretty much the same thing. That's the same mindset that I've had, like, even in the last 5 years of me opening here. Cause I'd say in the first couple of years, I was like, screw online retailers. They're just trying to take, my business. I'm a brick and mortar. I'm sitting here trying to sell what I can and support my local biker community and all this and that. And it was just angry at all the online retailers for a long time. And, I think my mind changed as I started running around the country to, hooligan races or bike shows. And I'm like, why? If I'm going to run across the country and set up a booth, a canopy, or whether I'm racing or whatever, like, how do I make this make financial sense, and actually get a little bit of a return for me driving to wherever? So if I can drive across the country, spread my name, and some guy wants to, start buying some stuff from me now, it's only going to happen online. It doesn't make sense for me to go to Daytona or Mama Tried in Milwaukee or Born Free or Sturgis or whatever if I'm just a repair shop in Ogden, Utah. Well,
also, I think also, to me, I feel like the country's very small because we're able, like, I've got bikes in my shop from out of state. I've got tons of projects from out of state. So to me, it's like, if you have the money and you want a certain dude to do it, most of the people that can afford to, like, have you build a bike can afford to drop it in a truck or bring it to you and come drop it off, maybe take the wife to go see Salt Lake or some shit on the way there and back. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think it's best to build, like you're saying, build a brand that can accept work from anywhere in the United States and focus on building a name everywhere instead of like a small town that only has a finite amount of people that may or may not fuck with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's kind of where my focus has shifted, I would say, from like when I first opened.
Yeah.
Because when I first opened, I was at the dealership for a long time. I left the dealership knowing I was going to open my own place, but I took a job in a factory, or just like a manufacturing facility, to buy me some time to get things off the ground here. And, and I opened the shop. I was working that, day job, working 40 hours over there, coming over here, working, another 40 hours at the shop. And, I did that for about a little over a year, which was rough because I was working a lot between two jobs, and when I first opened the shop, like, I wasn't super nervous about opening a business. Like, it wasn't super stressful, I don't think. But when I quit my day job over at that manufacturing plant and I came here and I was going to be reliant on this place to be my paycheck, like, that was when it, like, all became real. Like, if I don't get enough work in today, how am I going to get paid? And I got a wife, I got 4 kids at home, I got a mortgage, I got a lot to take care of. So the stress level was high. So, in the first couple of years, it was just like, I'm just going to hammer out. I'm just going to do what makes me money, service work, repair work, custom work if I could get it. But I really wasn't pushing the custom stuff. And now after a few years and getting a better kind of foundation built, like, that's now like the next phase, like, the last couple of years, like building a couple of bikes,
come on, internet.
damn
Right.
Skype again.
Yeah, I'm like turning everything I got off internet wise at this bitch. That's all good.
Yeah.
But no, I get
So
it.
yeah, I mean that's kind of where my focus is at.
Yeah, so you've been I mean, like I said, you've been able to build some pretty sick shit. And then in the meantime, like as you start traveling, you also start to meet all these different manufacturers and all these different people that sell different stuff. And you're able to really help bridge that gap between everybody in your town and the rest of the world as well. I mean, I know that people probably come to your spot that dig the performance scene, that, you know, like the thrash and stuff, like the, you know, the FXR division, all these cats that make cool shit, they dig them, and you're kind of like their shaman into the performance world now, basically.
Yeah, that's been one thing I've definitely noticed. Like, you know, running around shows, you know, and you know, meeting and hanging out with certain dudes, and like, and then yeah, like I'm now the local scene's connection to all these dudes that people only see on Instagram or whatever. You know what I mean? And so that's been kind of cool. Like that, you know, I'm becoming that connection for a lot of guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it feels cool. Like I think I said it on a podcast recently, but it's weird when you're sitting at a table with all your local homies, right? And they're all following these people that you have their direct phone numbers.
Yeah.
You're like, you know, like, oh, I'll text this dude right now just to kind of flex on him a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've had the same thing. Like, you know, some guys will be like, oh yeah, check out this, you know, bike that so-and-so built. And I'm like, oh yeah, I had dinner with him last year at whatever, you know, we hung out, you know, and he's a good dude. And they're like, oh, you know, and they just like, you know that dude? I'm like, yeah, he's just a regular dude. He's a badass, you know, he's a good dude. And they're just like blown away because like to them, like in their position,
yeah,
that guy is just a celebrity, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's the same, dude, the same thing for me. Like even to this
They're
day,
like blown away.
I'll sit down with, even to this day, like I'll be sitting down with some guys and I'll just kind of be like nerding out, like, holy shit, like I'm sitting down with so-and-so and so. And I think I kind of nerded out when I sat down with San Diego Customs and Danny G and their spot. And I was just kind of like, you know, they stole the show. They were just doing their thing. And I'm just sitting back going, holy fuck, man, I'm sitting right here with all these dudes. It was kind of surreal.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet. For real, I found myself in a few of those positions. You know, like we went to dinner, a group of us last year at the Smoky Mountain Tour in Tennessee, and I'm sitting there at this table, and I'm looking around the table, and I told my wife was with me, and I'm like, look at all these people that are sitting at this table, like. There's like some legit like bike builders and like dudes that own brands that are like well known. Like this is a legit table that I'm sitting at. Like it's almost like a dream right now.
Exactly. Same thing. So I did the hot bike tour in 2017, and I did the big ride with all the main guys that were invited builders, and we all went to a fucking Outback Steakhouse afterwards. And I'm sitting next to Carrie Hart, and then I got Kevin at Big Bear Choppers or Performance, and then who else was there? Like the Barnstorm dudes were there, and then like this fucking like restaurant full of fucking killers. You know, everybody. I can't even name them all right now. It's just tons of them, and I'm just like, don't be a dick, don't be an asshole, don't be weird, just be cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's wild, you know, and that's, you know, I look forward to more of that this year when we can get back to, you know, regular life, you know, and get into some events and hanging out with some of these guys that I've met in the past, you know, and meeting new guys. You know, it's always exciting to go see some of your homies that you've met from previous shows and hang out with them, and whoever the next guy that you're going to walk up to and be like, holy shit, like, I love your stuff on Instagram or whatever. And you just sit there and bullshit with him for an hour about everyday life. And you find out that like this dude deals with all the same shit that I do every day. Sure. Like it's crazy.
Yeah. That's the weird thing too, because, you know, sometimes we do a little, like when we do some videos, sometimes of us doing paint work or when I'm talking about like flaws that we have or issues that we deal with, a lot of people get the same way where they're like, oh man, it's really awesome to know that you have those same problems. I'm like, dude, I fucking fight problems that everybody, like we all deal with the problems. I think what really separates a lot of professionalism ends up being just how much problems and fires that each one of us can put out on a daily basis and get the work out as clean as possible. I mean, I think it's always that way, you know, and then as you get bigger, you start having a better setup and less issues.
Yeah, that, or, you know, hire people to put out the fires for you or something. I don't know.
I wish.
One day, maybe, you know.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, hopefully I can nail down my program to the point where like everything is just running smooth. Yeah. And you don't have those types of issues, but you know, you just call them growing pains. Like you're a new shop, you're trying to grow, you're trying to push, like.
Well, what about the hats? You know, like you got to, like the hats that you've put on since you started your own brand, your own shop. I mean, you go to MMI, you work in the Harley world, in the service, I imagine, right? Forever. And then you start this shop, and now not only are you doing the same thing that you have been doing, but now you're trying to market, you're trying to figure out what kind of brands to carry, you know, you're trying to find your identity as what is your shop going to represent. You know what I mean? There's a lot more to the table than just like being skilled. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Being skilled is just a very small part of it, you know, and I tend to get so many, you know, new ideas that I got to like sometimes rein myself in a little bit because, you know, I'm already like right now I'm still in the shop every day, wrenching, working on bikes, trying to build custom bikes. I do all the motor work here. I do all the dyno tuning here. You know, trying to teach myself more, you know, fabrication skills, trying to, you know, work on my marketing and social media, trying to build a website, trying to run a retail store. Like, you know,
it's a tough one.
Yeah, it's a lot, you know, and sometimes I just think like, you know, did I bite off more than I can chew? But I don't see myself like wiping any of those off the table. Like I'm going to keep pushing on all fronts.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like the more shit you got going on too, and the more busy and the more goals you continue to set for yourself, it continues to help you stay sane. It continues to, like, I don't want to speak on it too much, but like, I feel like when you have too much idle hands, you know what I mean, and not enough going on, not enough challenge in life, you get just kind of lazy, you get a little depressing, and just, you know what I mean? So when you constantly have shit going on, that means everything's firing, and you're doing shit, and you're getting things done, and you're, you know, creating goals. Like a lot of people don't even fucking get to that point, is to even figure out what a goal is for them, you know? And that's something that I've only recently learned, because I've always been a goal-oriented kind of guy, you know? Every day. As soon as I hit this, I'm like, well, shit, man, the iPhone 11's out now. Got to get that one now. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't mean to say it like a materialistic thing where all the goals are that, because like you said, trying to dial in the fabrication, that's a goal, man. Like trying to add that skill, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, and that's like, you know, I've been talking to Brian from TPJ a lot lately, because I just like really look up to like the bikes he's built, in his style, like taking basically a pile of tubing and turning it into a frame. Yeah. And the shit is, you know, it's super badass. And, you know, that's one of my goals. Like I want to take a pile of tubing, I want to bend it, I want to shape it, I want to weld it all together. And then I want to build a badass motor, and I want to build the motor myself, and I want to put this bike together. I want to put it on the dyno and tune it. I want to do it start to finish. Like that's one of my goals. And there's a lot of different skills that I gotta have to be able to do that.
Yeah, and tools.
And you know, and still trying to maintain the business and maintain, you know, being a husband and a dad and, you know, all the other things that I'm trying to maintain, you know, it's nonstop. So,
yeah. And like I said, it's in this world we live in now, the way, like the bike industry that we have now is like, we have to do everything ourselves 100%, man. And, you know, like you have your wife there, and I have friends that come and help me out from time to time. And so those things are much appreciated, but like, I guess I can't speak out of turn because I really don't know what the bike industry was like in the 90s. I kind of got an idea what it was like in the 2000s, but there was so much money going around all the shops that I was a part of or worked, you know, did paint work for, that they feel like they could throw money at all their problems and it solved it basically. And
really, yeah. I mean, money always, you know, everybody thinks money can solve your problems, and sometimes it can, but sometimes it just brings on more problems, you know?
For sure. Yeah.
You know, so
Come on. We're trying, folks.
everybody else's brand, you're much better off that way.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't hear anything you just said, but it sounded cool. This fucking thing is tripping, dude. This is like the worst connection I've ever had, but we're gonna push through it. What I noticed, like,
if this shit sucks, we'll figure out a way to meet in person one day and redo this shit. So
yeah, it'll be fine. But I mean, we'll definitely do it again, man. That's my thing about doing these podcasts is that I want everybody to have. I want them to come back on because when our listeners get to know you or get to hear from you, and they know about what's going on, they start following you, or if they're not already, then having you back on gets to let them catch up with you since last year or 6 months ago or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, a lot of the things I've noticed on some of your builds, like some of the sportsters you've done have had more of that flat track kind of vibe. Have you gotten into that much? You know what I mean?
Actually, yeah, no, I've actually done that a lot. You know,
you gotta excuse me. Like until we spoke, like maybe sending a couple messages back and forth, I knew of your bike and your shop because it looked cool.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And not to say anything about it. I haven't had a chance to really dive into your Instagram and like really nerd out on all the stuff that you are a part of. You know what I'm saying? So I've been trying to do it the last couple of nights since I knew we were going to talk. But I remember seeing a lot of really dialed in looking flat track style bikes that you've done, and I just didn't know if you were doing it as well. So.
Yeah, no, I am actually, and that's all kind of, you know, it kind of spawned from my motocross background when I was younger. I kind of got introduced into the hooligan flat track stuff. I think it was 2017. I went to Mama Tried, and you know, to check out the show. I watched the race there, and I was like, "Shit, dude! Like this is badass. I got to do this." So I came home. I bought an old Sporty and, you know, build a race bike out of it, and have been doing it ever since, you know, and kind of running around the country. That's been one of the main reasons I've been, you know, running around the country is chasing hooligan events. And it's been fun, you know, like I qualified and raced X Games in 2018.
Nice.
Which was, you know, like a huge deal for me to qualify and race X Games. I mean, I was racing against some guys that are pretty fast and well-known guys, you know, like there's even like some freestyle motocross guys out there that I grew up idolizing that I'm now on the track with, and it's wild, you know? So
how is that industry? Like I remember it blew up, and like probably when I say blew up, it blew up on the gram basically. In about 2017, I started seeing it everywhere. 2018 went real hard. And 19 seemed like it was doing good. I mean, obviously, I guess I'm getting at is the COVID-19's fucked everything up, huh?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, like, you know, in my opinion, the hooligan scene, I think it's probably peaked already. I don't think it's going to go away. But you'll see pockets of it stick around. You'll see races still happening at like events like Sturgis and Born Free and Mama Tried and stuff like that.
Did any of the Indian, like the FTR, did it become like a player in that game at all?
Yeah, Indian's really pushing in the flat track, you know, world. I mean, they're pushing super hard in the professional ranks, like with the AFT guys. And then the hooligan thing is, you know, more grassroots, amateur-based stuff. But yeah, India's making a big push in that world too. So, you know, it's interesting to see. In my opinion, like I said, I'm a diehard Harley guy.
Me too.
But I think it's good that Indian is there giving Harley some competition, because I've always been a believer that competition is good for everybody.
For sure. I mean, if you don't have competition, then you get. I mean, realistically, you get what we've got with Harley, which is the same bike for like 5 years in a row. You know,
exactly.
With the new color scheme. You know, I'd be really excited to see a couple key things change with the new baggers. If they're going to end up releasing a model this coming year, but I'm good with all the styling of the bike right now. But like a better infotainment center, like I don't know if you've fucked much with the road glides and the street glides, but man, like the radio's cool and it's nice and it's touchscreen, it's dope, but it just doesn't have a lot of features for something that costs damn near $30,000. You know what I mean? Like you should be able to get some Apple CarPlay or some shit like from the factory with it, It's
Yeah,
pretty-
I think they have a lot of room for improvement. I view it like that infotainment center than the current baggers, that came on and with the whole, Rushmore project and stuff was leaps and bounds over like the audio systems that were in the 13 and older baggers.
exactly.
Like that shit was like, 1980s car audio.
I had a brand new 2012. It had the flip out, like a little lever you opened up that you could put a CD in there.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
So like, I mean, I look at it now. I mean, yeah, and that new infotainment center, it's been out now for 6 years, I guess.
Yeah, and then they redid them in 19 with a full touchscreen. But dude, like the only difference I noticed is like you see water on the fucking map. Like the water looks like waves.
Yeah.
Come on, bro.
Really, what does that do for you? Yeah.
Nothing.
I mean, some new features and stuff like that, would be nice.
And it's crazy. Some of that shit could just be firmware updates. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Having a little bit more control over what's going on in your motor wouldn't be a bad thing either. Being able to see, maybe not control it, but be able to see like more actual vitals like through that infotainment center since everything's connected. So
Sure. Yeah, I would totally be down with, like seeing some live data of like what's going on, what with the motor and the fuel injection systems and stuff like that. Like if you had that option, I mean, I totally would geek out on that stuff because that stuff's right down my wheelhouse. I love, dyno tuning, and all that type of stuff. So I could definitely be down with that.
So what's your thoughts on the Chieftain, or not the Chieftain, but the other one, the Challenger?
Is that the Road Glide looking one?
Yeah.
I haven't ridden one in person. Mm-hmm. I've ridden that particular model. I've ridden like the Chieftain or whatever it is. I don't know all their names. But to me, they feel like a victory. How the victory's always felt.
Yeah.
I think the power plant, it's got good, smooth power. It's different than a Harley, but it's just not a feel that I'm in love with. I don't get on it and just love the way it feels for some reason.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just because I'm so biased towards the Harleys and I've ridden, every Harley imaginable.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they have some good things about their bikes that they're bringing out and are going to push things in a good direction.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, I think they got probably like 5 or 6 years before they don't make the kind of money they want on the corporate scale and they pull the plug just like they've done 40 times over. But at the same time, I 100% agree the competition is good. Hopefully it helps Harley, if not innovate, at least release some of the cool shit. They probably got locked in a storage somewhere. You know what I mean? We got a cool fairing this year for the first time in a while for the Lowrider S. You know what I mean?
Right.
That fairing was dope, man, and I love it. So those are the cool things, man. Those little touches of something different. The lower fairings on the Road Glide, that shit made. I bought a fucking $27,000 bike for a set of $400 lowers because that shit looks so dope. You know what I mean? For me, at least. So,
yeah, and it really is. It does come down to little details, and I've kind of been in this industry since like 2001, 2002-ish. So I've seen, like Harley's, releasing new models over the years, which, like through the 2000s, it was pretty weak, honestly. But there was nothing driving them to change, like Harley got so lazy, I think, in the days where you had to get on a waiting list just to buy a bike.
Yeah.
That they're like, why do we need to do anything different? People are lining up and buying this shit. Like, we don't need to change. And it just made them get lazy and complacent. And, and that's why like a bike from 2005 is the same bike you could have bought in 2013.
Yeah.
But the change is good, and it with some of the new models that Harley's bringing out, like it'll be interesting to see how things go, like with the adventure bike that they've been showing and, that like naked, like Street Fighter looking thing.
How do you have you dabbled in looking at the venture bikes much? I mean, I went through a phase where I was like all about it. until I tried to sit on one and I couldn't even touch the ground at all.
Yeah. No, I have. I want to buy one. It's one of those like kind of bucket list things. I want an adventure bike. I want to do an adventure bike trip where, most of the trip is dirt road, not asphalt. It's something that I want to do in my lifetime. I've always leaned more towards like the
KTMs. Yeah. He's frozen again. Come on.
I lost you again.
Yep. No, I agree. And that's one of the things that, you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about Brian from TPJ is that he'll build these dope-ass choppers, and then he'll build one that he'll take off-road. Or he'll just go off-road all the way to fucking, Wyoming and shit from where he's at. You know what I mean? It's crazy to me. Like, I don't know. I mean, I think it's dope as hell. I don't really care. Like, me personally, I didn't grow up on dirt bikes, and I've ridden them a couple times, and it really freaks me out being on one, like on the dirt, because the bike's kind of moving around everywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
I'm used to like, okay, when the ass end goes out, let off, get it back straight or whatever the case may be. But I don't know, man. I've always told everybody, like, I'm really into the adventure bike for more of the aspect of I want to ride cross continents. Like, I want to do South America, things like that. And I just want a bike that's capable of doing it. And if the Harley adventure bike, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of checks that I would want to see checked off my list of like needs, otherwise going with like a BMW or something. But, it'd be cool. It'd be cool if Harley really brought something really dope, had a support system behind it the way BMW supports their adventure riding and things like that. Dude, I don't know. It might be a game changer or it might be a fucking joke. It's hard to tell up front.
Yeah. I think, in my opinion, I think it could be dope. I like the idea, but they really got to bring a solid bike to the table.
Yeah.
Because, between BMW and KTM, those bikes are rock solid.
Yeah. With tons of years of like, rider feedback, things like that.
So to just jump into that ring with those guys and think that they're going to compete and get a guy to not walk into a KTM dealer or a BMW dealer to buy an adventure bike to go buy a Harley. And in my opinion, those two guys, the Beamer guy and the KTM guy, I think are a lot of times like anti Harley Davidson.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you really got to build something badass to convince them to walk into a Harley dealership. So it'll either be a home run or a giant flop.
Well, the other thing about it that I don't hear being brought up a lot is that those adventure bikes, like, it's a network of dealerships and support systems for these people that are going on these trips on these bikes, And it can't be like the live wire where you got like a couple dealerships here and there that can charge your shit. It's got to be a support system, because if somebody's traveling across South America and all your Harley kiosk stores just sell T-shirts, how are you going to help these people out on these adventure riding bikes?
Yeah, you're not. So, it's going to be something that they have to buy into 100% for it to work.
I mean, you can go anywhere in the world and get support from KTM, BMW, and Honda. With the Africa Twin and those kind of bikes, to me, like, I don't want to buy the bike so that I can ride to Sturgis. I'll do that on the Road Glide, bro. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I want to do it so I can ride some crazy shit and be like, fuck, I rode Mongolia, motherfucker. You know what I mean? I want to do that shit.
Yeah,
Kinda,
for real.
But I don't know, man. It'd be interesting. This year would have been a very interesting year for a lot of reasons had we not, lost all our freedom. So
yeah. And the thing is crazy. Like I look back, like, December, early January, and just talking to a few other people in the industry, brand reps and different guys, like, we were all kind of thinking that 2020 was going to be a good year.
Yeah.
And that the motorcycle industry was going to have a good year. Everything was going to be up. And at least on my end, like, I felt like I was trending in that direction. I'm like, yeah, this is going to be a good year. Like, things are looking up. Things are good. We're going to kick ass. And then, we all just got kicked in the nuts with this, COVID-19 thing. And everything came to a screeching halt. So now everybody, at least mine, and I think a lot of guys in the country are like, we just went from thinking we were going to have a kick-ass year this year to like, let's just survive the year
Yeah.
and try and get into the next one.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, like, what do you think the vibe is where, you know, because relatively when this stuff really started kicking off, we were still very early on in the year. You know, we're talking early March, basically, whenever it started slowly creeping into being a shit show. And, you know, right at Daytona, basically. So my thing is, let's say it subsides, you know, May, June, whatever they're predicting right now. Is all that enthusiasm that you get off being in the new year to go kick ass and build shit and go to these events and like make it, is that gone now? And it is just survival mode now, like just stay in business and take your $1,200, you know, stimulus check and try to stretch it out for 12 months?
I don't know, man. I kind of hope not. I mean, I hope that, you know, I think what people will realize that like life's short, so get out there and enjoy it. You know what I mean?
That's why we're still
what
doing
I'm hoping that people will realize, sitting here in their home locked up, like they realize that like, shit, I better get out and, you know, start doing some shit because I never know when the end is coming. So it's now or never.
Yeah.
You know, it could go either way. You know, we were talking the other day about Sturgis. You know, if Sturgis happens, is it, you know, they're talking about like this year's going to be, it's the 80th and it was going to be a huge year at Sturgis. Like, what is this going to have an effect? Are people going to be scared to go to Sturgis? So it's going to be a ghost town out there, or is it going to be even bigger than what it would have been? Maybe, who knows?
That's what I'm saying. Like the enthusiasm when this is gone, is it going to, you know, cause I'm hoping for what you just said. I'm hoping for people that are going to start taking that road trip, building that bike, doing that, whatever it is. They don't even have to be bike related, just doing that shit that people keep putting off. Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, and it's kind of one of these things this time right now, and maybe it kind of hurts us because I know I sell a very materialistic item out of my shop, but, you know, are people going to look at everything in their life and like kind of stop caring about the things that really are materialistic and don't necessarily bring something positive or motivating to the table? You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, do we really need, you know, a fucking X $1,000 paint job? You know, or can we just have this bike and go get the same experience on the bike? You know what I mean? That's gonna be
yeah. I don't know. I think there's dudes that like that's part of it for them. You know what I mean? Like part of this whole industry isn't just like getting on a bike and riding to Sturgis. It's the build. It's what can they do next? You know, how much horsepower can they make? You know, what kind of suspension? You know, dialing in their suspension or whatever. Mm-hmm. And, you know, so maybe some guys will look at it like, yeah, I don't really need the $1,000 paint job or, you know, whatever, or the, you know, 150 horsepower motor. I can just ride on my bone stock, whatever, and still enjoy it. But I think for a lot of guys, like that's the things that bring them, you know, happiness in life is the build itself, the creativeness. You know, they get to be creative in their bike, you know, and they get to choose the parts they put on it and the color of their paint or whatever. So
yeah. I'm interested, man. It's gonna be a good like people watching thing over the next couple of months, even for ourselves. Like, I mean, I don't know if this has really affected you much in your business, but it really hasn't affected ours at all. And honestly, everything feels normal as fuck every day when I go to work. It's just I want to go like sit down and have chips and salsa at a restaurant, and that's just off the table. And I'm just like, fuck, man. You know, now I'm eating tacos in my car and shit. Like, it don't even, dude, I had, you know, Taco Tuesday yesterday, and I went to my taco spot and I got all the food, and I was like, I had to go run errands, so I didn't want to go back to the shop to eat. So I made the biggest fucking 8-year-old mess I've ever made in my car. Just fucking salsa, like chicken with salsa all over it, falling everywhere. It was a shit show. I'm like, man, it'd be so nice to just sit down at a restaurant. That's taken for granted, man. Think about it. Or what, you know, everybody's talking about right now, like movie theaters might not even make a comeback after this.
Yeah, that's wild to think, you know, like, you know, that's something that, like, you know, guys that, you know, are our age, like movie theaters are like that. They've always been there.
It's
so like think of a world without a movie theater is wild.
You know, like, you know, we were actually talking about that today in the shop. But, you know, I had fucking like a mini party here today. But like some people were like, oh, that wouldn't bother me a bit. But I was like, man, like there's something about the anticipation of watching a movie, seeing the previews, it starting, being done, that vibe you get when you're leaving, and whether it was good or bad or motivating or whatever the fuck it was, like, it's an experience, man. You know what I mean? That
It is,
we take
yeah.
for granted for sure, because it's always been a part of, especially our lives.
Yeah, and I guess at this point we could probably call it a nostalgic type event. You know what I mean? With millennials and the younger generation, like, maybe they don't view it like we do.
Yeah.
I remember as a kid growing up.
Come on. Come on. You back? You back?
I'm back.
All right. You were a kid. You remember what?
I'm here. Yeah.
All right.
Like going to a movie theater. Yeah. Growing up, like going to the movies was that was a huge deal. Like, and like up until this year, like I could go to a movie and still have that same experience, that same feeling that I used to have when I was an 8-year-old kid waiting for, a movie to come out.
Yeah, I do.
So,
I'd like to, I take my kids, me and my son watch just about every Marvel movie that comes out. I grew up loving comic books. He's into it. So that's kind of our thing. You know what I mean? Going to see those movies.
Yeah.
And, dude, he'll text me all day. He doesn't live with me, so he'll text me all the time, like, when the trailers come out on fucking, on YouTube and shit. And that's something we share, is that experience of seeing that movie. And sometimes he'll be like, you remember we went and saw that one movie at the theaters? Like, that's something we talk about, and it means a lot to me. But the weird thing, like you were saying before we got kind of disconnected for a second, was like the millennial kind of connection, or the Gen Y, or wherever the fuck we're in now. But like, it does feel like so many things are becoming like more, if it's not, it has to, I'm trying to find the right words to say it. Like, there is no idea of like emotion towards anything anymore. It's like either practical or why the fuck are we doing this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's still a bad way to describe it, but.
I see it with my kids. I mean, like, they would just as soon sit and watch a movie on their cell phone than, have to get up, get dressed, drive down to the movie theater, stand in line for popcorn, watch all the previews, like,
yeah.
Why do I want to do that? I can just log onto my phone and watch it laying here in my bed. Like, but what I don't think they understand is just like the experience is worth more than the movie itself, whatever it is they're watching. It's more about the experience of getting out and, just living life a little bit.
And do you really absorb the art of a film if you're on your bed in your natural environment?
I don't think so.
I don't either. I think there's too much distractions.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched movies at home or on my iPad or whatever, just like laying around the house, and it's not the same. Like, it's just not the same experience for sure. But I think younger kids, like, it just seems like they don't appreciate the experience.
Yeah.
That comes along with it. It's too like inconvenient for them.
That could be said about like, maybe the same thing with the lack of younger generations on motorcycles, which I don't know if I see it or not. I mean, I'm not in a position business wise to see if those numbers, I mean, you work in a dealership, so you could probably attest to it. But to me, it's like, and that's one of the things that, like with us, like I try to preach about how it feels to jump on your bike with your buddies and go ride, a state over or a couple hours and stay the night somewhere and then come home the next day. Like, it changes your motorcycle experience. Mm-hmm. And, or you can look at your experience of riding bikes as like, what bars are open today? Well, now none of them are open, but the borders are still open for most states. I think all states except for like 2, So like, I don't know, like, it's a weird thing, man. Like I said, because that experience of riding and doing shit and hanging out with your boys, going to Sturgis, wherever, like me and my buddy's trip we did last year when we went through Salt Lake, dude, like I could sit there and have those dudes can come over right now and we could have a 4-hour podcast reminiscing about that fucking 2-week trip we took. You know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of how I've always like viewed the motorcycle itself. Like it's not just a vehicle to take me from point A to point B. Like, it's a vehicle that like allows me to live life. It brings on these experiences and these events that, like you said, you can sit back and reminisce you know, and that's like, when I look back, like it's not really like Sturgis that I went to. It was that, you know, we went there as a group, you know, we rode, you know, we sat at this restaurant, we saw this happen or whatever. It just provides those life experiences and those life moments that you'll never forget. Like, you know, and when we die and we go on, like you're not taking the motorcycle with you.
Yeah.
But you're taking all those memories and that life that you lived with you. You know what I mean? That's
for sure.
And that's what it's all about.
And, you know, like, you don't want to be remembered as, oh, that dude, you know, nobody knew him, but he had a cool, you know, bike.
Right. Yeah. You know, the motorcycle is just you know, it provides you the opportunity to meet people.
True.
And have
100%.
Conversations.
Yeah. And
have experiences that you wouldn't ever have if you just sat at home and were a computer programmer or something. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the same, you know, kind of going back to it, is like if we all watched that new movie that came out, which, you know what, it's playing devil's advocate here, man. Like, look at how viral fucking TV shows go nowadays and things on Netflix and Disney Plus, how crazy it gets. You know what I mean? Like, when's the last time you really saw a movie get that kind of like attention? Yeah,
for sure. I would agree. I mean, I guess I never really thought about it, but now that you say that, yeah, for real. Like, you know, movies used to be a huge deal and people were waiting and waiting for a movie to come out. And now it's like, oh, when's the next season of whatever going to come out on Netflix or whatever? You know, that's what everybody talks about now.
It's strange. I mean, I am not on that bandwagon with that fucking Tiger King thing. And if anybody likes it, that's cool. Do your thing. I saw one episode passingly while I was in the house when my wife was watching it, and I'm just not into that shit. I'm not into shit shows. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't. I didn't watch bum fights and fucking that crazy shit when I was growing up. It didn't interest me to see people down on their luck or making shitty life decisions. At least in a movie.
I haven't watched the Tiger King thing either. I feel like an outsider because you see all these jokes and different posts on you know, Instagram and stuff about talking about this, and I got no clue what they're talking about.
Like I said, it's a shit show, man, and it's I only watched like an episode, and like I said, passingly, in the small bit I got, it gave me like a weird anxiety of how this dude acted. You know what I mean? And for some people, that's pure entertainment for them, and I get that. But, you know, I made a post the other day because I watched this that documentary on Mr. Cartoon and Esteban Oriol on Netflix, which is fucking really great if you're into like any of the tattoo, custom paint, lowrider culture. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And even music culture from that time, and it's really badass. And then I watched that, and then at the end of it, I felt like, fuck, I want to paint something. I want to do something creative. Like, it motivated me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's like I think if more people absorb those type of like content that really motivates them, that after it's over, like, fuck, man, like, I can't go to sleep now. I got to draw, or I got to go learn how to weld, or I got to do something. I got to go do some sit-ups, whatever it is, you know?
Yeah.
Or you watch Tiger King, at the end of it, you make a fucking meme.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, what are you really adding to society at that point?
Exactly. And it just, to me, I see a lot of people, you know, my brother was a big proponent talking about like people and depression and things like that. And I don't know the fucking answers, you know, but just being a very dumb person on the outside looking in, I would just say, like, maybe it's the shit you feed yourself visually, content wise.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I totally agree. I mean, like, you know, whatever you surround yourself with is who you're going to become.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you just, you're going to hole up in your basement and watch, you know, Cops and Tiger King and all, you know, all these people just being dumbasses,
making a murder and all these fucking things of just like really, like, that's, it's like, you got how many like episodes, like fucking 9 episodes at an hour a piece. You got 9 hours of your life to invest in something. At the end of it, you're not going to know anything. You're not going to be able to, you're not going to be better at math. You can't spell better. You can't draw. You can't fucking talk better. Like, you're just, like, you absorbed nonsense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. You just burn 9 hours of your life for nothing.
And that's a hard thing for, some people to look into, but I get it. A lot of people loved it. And, I think maybe that's just a personality type. Certain people get off on that type of shit,
Yeah.
I mean, what was it, bum fights back in the day, like World Star Hip Hop? Like that shit was very entertaining to a lot of people. I just don't like seeing people get their ass whooped and shit like that. It just didn't do anything for me.
Yeah, I get it. I get that. It's like
it's almost like there's no empathy or compassion for people is what it feels like. To see someone just be fucking methed out and tripping and doing crazy shit, and everybody's like, whoa, this dude's fucking wild. Not like, man, like I feel bad for this dude. Like, where's the empathy? You know what I mean? Or if that's the right word to use to describe that, I don't know.
Well,
come on. Here we go. Welcome back. It's commercial break. So
what's that?
Say it was a commercial break.
Oh yeah.
So what you got? Like, I know you and Brian from TPJ were talking about the build. So what's your build going to be for the V-Twin? What can you share about it for the V-Twin Visionary tour? Are you going to have it done for Sturgis? Is that the goal?
That's the goal.
Okay.
The goal is Sturgis. Yeah. So, that was another like kind of crazy idea that I came up with, and kind of these lofty goals that I put in front of myself. Mm-hmm. I don't really have a build in the works right now. So, I was kind of thinking like, what do I want to do? What do I want to work on? And I saw that Brian was starting to build a Sportster for this year's shows,
Yeah.
And we were kind of going back and forth. He was asking me some questions about like my race bike and a few different things. And so I knew he was building a Sportster for this year. And I was kind of looking for some inspiration, an idea, like a direction. And I was like, why don't I hit up Brian and see if he'd be down to like do a little like kind of like a build off, like I'll build a Sportster and he'll build one, and we'll kind of like amp it up like through social media. Like it's like we're battling against each other, and we're going to see who can build a better bike. And, just like a friendly competition. And I told Brian straight up, I'm like, dude, I don't even care if we pick a winner. I'm not, in my position, like I want to build a bike that like when it sits next to his bike, like, looks like it's in the same category. Like that's my goal with it. And that's why I picked Brian, like, is because I really, like I said, I love his style. I respect his work and his skills, and I want to push myself in that direction. So I was like, what better way than to like try and compete with him, to like, if I'm going to learn this shit, I'm going to try and compete against him.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Dude. So that's my goal. And really, like, honestly, like today I have a bike that I'm going to start with. It's just in a bunch of pieces right now. Mm-hmm. As of right now, I don't have like an exact direction on my vision with it yet. I'm still trying to.
Are you planning on cutting it up and putting some of those fabrication skills to the test, or what?
Yeah. Yes, that's my plan. Yeah. So I'll be chopping the frame, in some way or another. I don't know if you saw like on my race bike that I'm racing this year. I built a custom oil tank that sits down in front of the frame, in front of the motor. So like underneath my seat, there's nothing underneath my seat.
Yeah.
Like no oil tank, no battery box, no nothing. It's just open. And so I'll probably incorporate that oil tank into this bike as well, which took a lot of, some fabrication. I wouldn't say a lot, but yeah, that's kind of like my early ideas. I'm also trying to think like long term, like me and my buddy Jordan, like that does some of my social media stuff with me, maybe we can turn this into like a more of a long-term project, like this little like showcase between me and Brian. Maybe it's something that like we do against each other this year, and then maybe it's a something that happens next year with two new guys, and we create this like little showcase that happens once a year between two builders, and like a little side project. I
mean, that's kind of like, on one note, like our industry's changed so much in the last couple of years with the absence of magazines, and a lot of different avenues to really put out content, right? So now we're all like our own chapter of a big magazine in this industry now. You know what I mean? And so we have to put our shit out. We like I said, we were talking about the hats we all got to wear now. Now we got to be social media marketers and photographers and videographers and all these other shits, right?
Yeah.
And fortunately, like technology has made it kind of easy to do all those things now with apps and shit like that. But we have to create this type of shit. Like there's no company out there. There's no brand of any kind that is gonna like really task you. I mean, I know that V-Twin Visionary is putting on the shows and they're doing a lot of things, right? But Jeff's like hounding these people, these corporate sponsors to help him throw and do bigger things, and that's a job on itself that I understand. You know what I mean? So it's like I don't know, man. Not to put any kind of shade anywhere on anything, but it is a good idea, in my opinion, to just take the leap and try to create things for other people to jump on to do, because no matter what, it's going to create a competition, which then helps you set more goals for yourself, you know, and then it creates something for, you know, the average dude that just wants to see the motorcycle industry be alive. You know, you're putting your heartbeat in it. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. I mean, I just come to realize like there's a lot of shit happening out there, but it's only happening because like some dude is sitting there dreaming up these ideas and then turning them into a reality. So it's only going to happen if us within the industry take some of those crazy ideas in our head and try and make them happen. And some of them might work. Some of them will probably suck and go away, but you never know until you try. So, you know,
there's also like, you know, when you think about, I don't know how many people you follow, but I follow a lot of different builders and fabricators that are so spread out across the country that they really, and I don't mean this to sound like a woe is me or fucking, you know, boo-hoo me or any of these guys I'm talking about, but like sometimes when you're off the beaten path, you know, kind of, I guess, like where you're at. You know, fortunately though, like you're the direct vein from like SoCal to Sturgis. For the most part. So they all got to pass through your town in some form or fashion. And, but at the same time, like these people in the Midwest that are talented builders and fabricators and painters, and then you still got your hub of like the SoCal, NorCal, Phoenix, you know, maybe you could throw Vegas in that mix, and then it just kind of dies off as it gets over the Rockies. And you know, a lot of that industry doesn't pay a lot of attention to the Midwest. You know what I mean? So a lot of us have to create our own media. You know, we have to wear all those fucking hats. We don't have kids that dig our work, that come to our shop that I just make videos on the side. I just want to ride with some buddies, and they'll make all these dope videos for you for nothing, for an oil change.
I definitely don't have that. I mean, I got to work for all of it, whether I got to do it myself or I got to hire somebody or whatever. Like, you know, I gotta work for all of it for sure, you know, and, you know, it really just boils down to me, you know, if I want to see something happen, ain't nobody going to do it but me.
And I hate to sound like a hypocrite, because I know that whenever I plan to go on trips to get more podcasts done, where'd I fucking go? California, Phoenix, Vegas.
Yeah, right.
So I hate to be the hypocrite in that situation, but you know, we've done some Midwest tours. I mean, the craziest thing is like I've been in Stockton at John Jessup's spot doing podcasts, and everything's great. And Stockton's a shithole. A lot of friends there. I spent a lot of time in Stockton, so I get to say that. But you know, then I go to fucking, you know, Indianapolis, and my bike gets stolen while I'm doing. Yeah. So it's like, fuck, man. Like the Midwest hasn't been as good to me.
Yeah, the Midwest is different too. Like it's even different than like, you know, here. Like Midwest is a different place for sure. You know, and they have their own deal, their own style, what they got going on. But, you know, I would say in our industry, you know, through the Midwest, there's not a whole lot happening out there.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot. There's a lot, but it's so spread out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's just it.
So like you might have, you know, I guess in a sense, kind of like how you're kind of like the token for the performance scene in the Salt Lake vicinity, if you will, right? And I would say like maybe us in Dallas and maybe a couple other shops in different parts of Texas in cities. And, but when you're in Phoenix, it's like there's 5 of them within 5 miles from each other that we all follow online. Ramjet,
Right.
Cruzy, fucking this shop, that shop, blah, blah, blah. And then you go to LA and San Diego, it's the same story, right? And NorCal, the same shit. But then you go out west, you get over those Rocky Mountains or kind of more in the rural areas, and it's like there's really only like one shop in this town. You know what I mean? There's a bunch of them, but maybe only one that's become like the nationwide known.
One in the whole state or whatever.
Yeah.
You want to see another performance-minded shop, you got to go another state over to see the next one.
Yeah.
Like you said, like Phoenix or SoCal, like you drive around the block and see another one.
Yeah, for sure. So do you feel like a lot of the customers you have there are like down with you and fuck with you, or do you feel like they're all like getting into performance, but they're like, I want to deal with Phoenix or California, not locals? You ever get that?
I think that happens. I mean, I think that they're like, they look at some of these other brands, like, and they kind of put these guys or these other shops, like,
Lost them again. Back. That shit's
another commercial break.
There we go.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that, and there are some legit brands and shops around, in Phoenix and, in California and around that it is tough competition competing with these guys, because they, some of these guys have been around for a long time.
Yeah.
They've built a lot of shit.
Mm-hmm.
And to be a kind of new up and coming shop, new to the custom bike world and stuff like that, like I'm still trying to cut my teeth and build a reputation and, but that's all right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not giving up, I'm
sure,
still pushing forward.
I mean, that's the thing. It's one of those things that we notice when we talk to a lot of people on and off air. And it's always weird how, like, a lot of people, and it happens the same thing for people in Phoenix, in LA, in SoCal, or in San Diego. It's like, you'll have like this shop that's a staple in the industry of performance bikes, but then there's a handful of dudes here that are just like, I'm going to send my shit to Texas, or I'm going to send my shit to NorCal, or whatever the case may be. And I don't want to talk shit about that, because that's what really helps distribute the wealth around all of us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when you're a small town like we are, or a small scene like we are, I think you feel it more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you go to your local bike night and there's only fucking like 15 T-bars in town. And
right. Yeah, it's different, I think it's tough, like, not being in areas like SoCal, like, how many brands that we deal with, with parts on these bikes are located in SoCal. Like, if I was like in the same building complex as like some of the, Saddlemen or Race Tech or Progressive, all these other brands, like if they were just like next door neighbors, like for sure I'd have a much different relationship with that company than just some hole in the wall shop in Ogden, Utah calling up being like, hey, like, let's strike up a relationship. And they're like, who the fuck are you? You know?
It's tough, man. It's tough. But, like I've always looked at it like we all have to, if you're a shop, man, like those brands you just mentioned, like you become a part of their network of distributing their products. You know what I mean? And it's got to be tough. I think the ones that do it well are the ones that they get sold the most. It's like you got to take care of them just like you take care of the neighbors, Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just hard. Like, as well as I do, like, if you could walk into a building and talk to a guy face to face and build a relationship with him, it's so much easier to do than just, emailing a guy, and that's just it. Like a lot of times you can't even communicate over the phone, like even voice to voice. A lot of this shit's just through email, and it's just so easy to, build good relationships with people through email.
Yeah, and the other weird thing, I've been fortunate enough to be able to travel and sit down in a lot of shops and kind of be in the room with certain brands, and there's one thing I don't like about myself, and it's a bad trait that I have, but I find myself doing it, and when I don't do it, things pass me by, right? Is this need to sometimes like, hey, I'm Jace, I own the Fast Life Garage or whatever, and sometimes it's after being around someone for 20 minutes, and they're kind of I wouldn't say they're not acting like you don't exist, but they don't know who you are. They don't really have any connection to you. They might be talking to like, the other guy you're with, hanging out with, whether it, whatever, whoever it is. Like say I'm at Ramjet and me and Tony are hanging out, and then, the fucking rep for Olin's drops in and, doesn't know me by face, because we all know each other through social media, right? And until I say my name, oh yeah, thank you for all the fucking help selling Olin's last year. You know what I mean? Like, it's like this weird thing that you almost have to pitch yourself to everybody you meet when you're not from these areas to let people know, because a lot of them will follow us and whatnot. But, there's no people follow us for our paint, not this fucking face. You know what I'm saying? So
right. Yeah, for sure. And I'm kind of the same way. Like, I'm not one to just like jump in and like tell everybody who I am, what I do.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, opportunities might be missed because of that. But, some of that comes from like a fear of like being like, oh yeah, I'm Tony from Tucker Speed. And like, they're going to be like, well, never fucking heard of you. So, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's hard, but you just have to keep at it. Not everybody's going to know who you are. You just have to keep pushing.
Yeah. It's just a weird thing, man. It's weird, like pitching yourself to people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, I have to do it all the time too, for like the podcast and like sponsors and things like that. It's like this ongoing thing of like starting a MySpace profile in my life. I feel like you're constantly like, what about me makes me interesting to other people? It's like, you just it's just a weird spot to be, man. Like I just want to.
Yeah. It's a super uncomfortable spot for me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not like, I'm not the type of dude that's going to walk into a room and like demand, the center of attention. That's just like not my personality,
Yeah.
So it's real weird to like try and like promote myself and put myself out there, talk about myself a lot, So it's a challenge. It's something that, it's a skill set that I know I don't have. So it's like one of those things that I have to like, talk to myself about, like teach myself, like, get more comfortable with it so that I can do it.
Yeah, because, like the people I've talked to about it, they're also like the same ones. They're saying, well, you got to think, like kind of like that guy at the bar that asked 30 girls for their number and he pulls like 3 of them, you know what I mean? Or one of them.
Yeah.
He still got one. And it's kind of like my friend told me once, like you kind of need to be that guy in a sense where it's just a fine line of trying to be that guy that lets people know what you're about and who you are, but not in an arrogant way.
Yeah.
Or a cocky way or whatever, in any kind of way that's, not modest, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's
and it's hard to do. And it's hard to do that and not feel like, cocky or arrogant. It's hard.
So like when people come and see your what do you call the bike, the one that's behind you? Is it like it's
I just call it my Road King because that's what it started life as. You know what I mean?
So the Road King is like, when people nerd out about that, is it not sometimes awkward just sitting there like taking compliments in the face like left and right? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
it's weird.
It's weird, yeah.
It's been a weird and that bike has like that bike's been the one that's really kind of launched me to the next level. Like it's really put me on the map. I put it in a lot of shows last year. It was all over Instagram and, so it's been weird over the last year, like hearing people talk about it and all the love that it got on social media. And it's been a little bit of an adjustment for me to get used to like people looking at my bike and talking to me about it and being like, oh, I love it. It's, it's a beautiful bike. And wanting to know about it. So it's been a little bit of a transition. I can't say that I don't love it because it's great.
Yeah.
It feels good, but it's still uncomfortable.
Yeah. It is uncomfortable, man. It's always weird. Like, I don't know, man. I've had some weird stories. I've been fortunate enough in life to have a couple pretty cool bikes and, especially when like Instagram became like the big tool to everybody see it, like when I had my Gold FXR, like that bike got shared a lot, like you were saying about yours. And so it was everywhere I went. Like I remember the first time I ever went to Born Free and I pulled up into the San Diego Custom Show. And I remember Twitch, a couple of the unknown dudes and all these folks, like in my vision of it, they ran up to me, but they walked slowly. And they was like, fuck, dude, like, it's awesome that you made it. The bike looks sick. We've been following on Instagram. And I just fucking felt like, oh, shit, I'm somebody now, dude. Like, those dudes follow me. Like, it was just super gnarly to do. And it's just weird, though. Like we were saying, man, it's weird, like, having this item that is almost its own persona on social media. And, you know, like, it's yours, like, you did it, you made it, but it's its own thing that has its own fans. Kind of like if you had a dog and he had an Instagram profile and he had more followers than you.
Fuck that dog. But, but yeah, that's how I feel about the bike. Like, I do feel like the bike's way more known than I am.
For sure.
You know?
Me too.
You know, if you walk past me down the road, like, you know, you wouldn't have stopped and said, hey, I know that dude. But like, if you see that bike roll down the street, you're going to know the bike for sure.
Exactly. No, I agree 100%. It's a crazy thing that we deal with as, like, you know, modifiers of motorcycles or owners of cool shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And the other weird thing with Instagram is, like, you know, having like these Instagram friends, like, you watch their life unfold on Instagram, and it's like, you know everything about this dude, but you've never met him in person. And then like all of a sudden you run into him at a bike show or whatever, and you got to walk up and like introduce your.
Yeah. It's commercial time. Oh, Skype is not our friends today.
Damn Skype.
Fuck it. But yeah.
Goddamn Skype.
Yeah. Fucking Skype.
You know. So Instagram friends are just weird. Like, you know, dudes, like, you know everything about them. You know what their life is. You know what their, you know their wife, their kids, their dog, their motorcycles, their job, all this stuff about them, but you never met them. And then you introduce yourself to him, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm so and so. It's like, you know, like you're meeting for the first time, but you know everything about him. It's weird.
Yeah, for sure. You know, when we get a chance to travel a lot on our bikes, we get a lot of people that reach out to us from different areas that see that we're coming through, and they'll come out, take us to a bar, take us to dinner, drink with us, let me crash on their couch, plenty of those things. And so far, I've met nothing but solid, cool fucking people. Right?
Yeah.
It's really hard to. There are times when I just don't want to be on social media at all. I just don't want to deal with it, whether it's like for whatever reason, right? But then there's these times when like you're doing shit and it just brings you a lot of fucking awesome joy in life with friends.
Oh yeah.
Connectivity to everybody, and you know, it's like a shitty girlfriend that fucks really good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can't live without it, but you just hate it.
Yeah, and if you're not doing it, you know somebody else is using it. So it's
yeah. I was so like anti-social media, like even just like 5 years ago. Like, I didn't even have an Instagram account. Like, probably like my Instagram account's probably 3 years old. I wasn't even on Instagram before that. Like, I was on Facebook, but just like I never used it.
Yeah,
I hated social media. And I kind of still do.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's like this necessary evil. You got to do it now. It's the way people communicate.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's kind of like, let's say early 2000s when everybody that was used to making flyers and business cards didn't want to make a website. Eventually, you know, and it was a little hard to make websites back in the day, but now it's like, fuck, dude, like, it ain't shit to have a website. You know what I mean?
Right.
Mm-hmm. And if you don't have a website these days and you want to call yourself a business, it's really tough, bro.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You can't operate without that, you know? So it's just the way it is. I mean, you got to evolve with it, you know, with, you know, technology. And it's the same thing like in the motorcycle world. You got to kind of evolve with the changes and adapt to it. If you don't adapt, you're dead.
Yeah. 100%, man. You know, the adaptation that people have to learn how to accept. You know, sometimes it sucks because sometimes people get to the scene late in it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it might, you know, and you know, that's that story of everybody, man. Like, oh man, if I would have started doing this at the beginning of the chopper craze in the 2000s, I would have been in a different place. You know, it's all perspective and shit, but
yeah,
it is weird. Like, it's not weird. It's just one of those deals. Like, you could easily come into this performance thing, which has been going on for a couple of years now. But let's say it's got a 10-year run, and you jump on year 9. And you could have brought some real shit to the table. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
Or there's also the guys that, you know, just don't want to adapt, or they don't like where things are going, and they don't know how to adjust and find the creativity in the new style, which is another one I see a lot, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of guys out there in this industry that are still trying to, build, big wheel baggers or stretch out choppers. Cause that's just what they know, maybe they killed it in that game, and they had, they made a ton of money and building choppers and all this stuff. And it's like, they got so stuck in that, whatever
Platform.
it is that they're scared to step out of it now. But, and now they're just going to sit there and try and scrape by for the rest of their life, just trying to do what they can in their comfort zone.
Dude, there's this, the big wheel bagger thing has kind of evolved to the stereo thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there's this shop, man. I don't want to put his name out there, and I'm not trying to say anything bad about him, but it kind of is bad. They're a stereo shop, to my knowledge, that turned into a custom bagger building shop. All right. And we painted a bike for him, and it was actually about almost 2 years ago now. And over the weekend, I guess they had so much stereo stuff in there, it literally burned the bike down to a crisp. And they posted it all over line and all over Facebook and shit. I was like, yo, I would have not done that.
Yeah, for real.
Because it ain't like the bike started caught on fire from something else. The fucking all that electronic and those batteries and the amps, that shit caught fire and burned your bike down, and that's what you do for a living. Sell stereos to people. There's no granted, I would be kind of hiding some of my flaws, but that's just some shit you don't put on Front Street. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's some stuff you just got to keep behind closed doors. I mean, we've all made mistakes. We all fuck stuff up, whether it be working on bikes or painting or whatever, but you don't throw that shit out there on Facebook or Instagram.
Yeah, dude, I was tripped out by it, and I was like, fuck. I mean, like I said, it was a full-on bagger that we painted, and I didn't necessarily want to do it at the time, but I kind of wanted to do another big wheel bagger. I hadn't done one in a year, and I was like, man, let me do a cool one, and I did it, and I dug it, but man, just seeing that bike burnt to a crisp, I was like, fuck, dude, that is not, I would not have done that. I would not have posted it,
Yeah.
For sure.
It's like a motor builder, posting the motor he just built blew up.
Yeah.
It doesn't really, help your street cred at all.
Exactly. Man, it's crazy. So what do you think is more of a predominant style bike up there in the northern Utah area?
I'll tell you what, there's maybe 5 FXRs in Utah.
That means that there's a bunch of really good ones tucked away in people's garages somewhere.
Probably is, yeah. I have a super dope one in my shop right now. It's actually a shovel head FXR.
Nice.
And I told the dude, I'm like, dude, if you ever want to sell this, call me because I want it. It's all kind of set up, kind of old school. It's got apes and a thunder header on it and lowered rear shocks, but it's super, super clean.
Yeah.
It would be one I'd love to get my hands on. But yeah, FXRs aren't huge. A lot of Dynas. Mm-hmm. I would say for some reason, Sportsers in my area have gotten super hot. And I think it's because there's a big group of young dudes, 20 to 30-year-olds that have transitioned into this Harley scene due to watching all the stunt riders and or hooligan racers or whatever.
Didn't they have a Bell Brawl there in Salt Lake City not too long ago?
Yeah, the Bell Brawl comes up. The dude, I forget his name, but the dude that started the Bell Brawl is actually from Salt Lake area. Okay. So yeah, he's got roots here, and they usually come up here and do a show once a year. Yeah. So, a lot of Sportsters, but I would say mainly like I said before, our culture here is super old school. So lots of just regular old baggers, dudes that just roll around on their stock electric glides or whatever, or want to put, a 21-inch wheel and ape hangers. That's, I do a lot of that stuff just because it pays the bills and that's what's there,
Yeah.
So yeah, we're really pushing the performance scene, with a lot with Dynas and baggers. I've been wanting to buy a new Road Glide. I just sold a Road Glide a couple months ago, my personal bike.
Yeah.
It was an older Road Glide. It was an '08. But I had it all set up like, performance style, T-bars,
Yeah.
2-into-1, tall suspension, all that type of stuff. And it was a great bike. I just wasn't never riding it. And it just sat there, and
Yeah.
the right deal came along and I sold it. I've been wanting to buy a new Road Glide. I want to buy like a 19 or 20, and start doing some more performance work on it.
Yeah.
I also feel like, I almost need to be able to build a bike to kind of like showcase the work I want to be doing at the shop. So I almost feel like I have to,
I would second that. It's a weird thing, but like, it's a lot easier to sell jobs when you have that job already sitting on the table. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So
that's something that I'm working towards. I'm just trying to come up with the funds
yeah.
to buy another bike. And
Yeah. It's they're a grip, man. I mean, but getting one used, man, like I gotta say, man, I got a 19, and I'm at 27,500 miles right now, and motherfucker is just running like a champ, dude. You know? And I put those I did 27 from September of 2019 to September of last year. I did 26,000 miles on that bike, just fucking hammering it, and it took it, and it's still going good. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I don't know. I got faith in those bikes. I think they got a lot of. I think my first one was a 17, or my first M8 was a 17, and people scared the fuck out of me with all the like rumors of the oil stuff, and that was kind of, like I was coming off one of my biggest riding years as far as traveling, and so that bike having all those like alleged issues, or those the issues they did have. It just turned me off, and I just sold it, Didn't ever finish it. Never even got to suspension or anything. So, fucking commercial again. I should be noticing whenever you're super still on the screen that we're done for a minute.
Yeah. There's a couple times where like you were still, I'm like, are we on commercial break here, or is he just sitting there like perfectly still?
Yeah, for sure.
I have a 2018 Softail lowrider right now. Nice. That I've been working on doing a few things too. I love the new M8 platform though. I think it's a solid motor. Yeah. I really do. That lowrider I got, like I did the leading edge 125 kit in it.
Oh, for real?
A few other things. Like,
how do you like?
I love it, man.
What kind of numbers you getting out of it?
I wish I knew. As of right now, I don't know. I'm still working on that. I'm in the middle of doing the cam now and getting a few other things dialed in. So I don't have numbers to put out yet.
Yeah. That's probably a real vague question to ask. Like, what kind of numbers are you getting, bro? It's like, it's like a fairing or a seat question.
Yeah, no, it's, I wish I could tell you, but I actually haven't even put that bike on the dyno yet.
Yeah.
I know out on the road, it rips, you know. And I got a bunch of, a couple of the kids that work for me and other dudes I've let them ride it that are riding around on, pretty nice dynas and stuff. And they're like, fuck the dyna. I'm going to buy one of these right now. They're like, you sell me this? I'm like, it really is a solid bike, dude. It's so nice.
It's crazy. Like, cause when we first started doing these podcasts was like really soon after, actually they just released the Softails. We're talking like maybe 2 months later or 3 months later, we started the podcast. And that was a big topic of conversation because nobody had really ridden one yet. And the scene hadn't quite put any creativity into the Softails. So they were still super basic. Mm-hmm. But now we're looking at, going on the third year of that platform being out, and it's the future, 100%, man.
It is. It's a good bike, dude. It really is. Like, once you ride one, after coming off like a Dyna or FXR, like, it's such a nicer bike. Mm-hmm. And then I think there's so much potential in that M8.
Yeah.
Like you can do like, what I would consider just like minor, performance upgrades, like just top end big bore and cam type stuff. And those things rip. Like, you'll be pushing 130 horsepower from like bolt on parts. Yeah. And you used to have to build the shit out of your twin cam to get it to that point.
So for mine, all I did was throw the 468 cam from Zippers into mine. And it can definitely be faster, but to me, man, like it was a nice upgrade and it gives me a good amount of power. It's reliable for putting miles down. Mm-hmm. And Dude, it feels great. Like I'm at a point at the end of this year, I want to do a motor this year at the end of the year after the riding season or whatever you want to call it. But the practical side of me is looking at the 131 from Harley as a full crate engine and just being like, all right, let me just buy this brand new thing and put it in the bike versus redoing a fucking, crank up build on something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it is appealing to just yank the motor and drop one in for sure. And I don't know. I think the verdict's still out on that 131. How solid that motor is and what kind of performance they're going to get out of it. But I definitely see that. I mean, I got a dude. I have a dude that I do some work on his bike. And that dude, so he's got an older CVO 110, and he bought the 120R crate motor.
Yeah.
But the dude rides. He'll put down 20,000 miles on this bike every year.
Yeah.
So basically, what he does is like he'll ride all year on one motor, and then in the wintertime, he'll swap the motors. And then, like, while he's riding and jamming on one motor, he's freshening up the other.
Oh,
and then he'll swap it. So he just swaps it every off season, and he keeps it, so everything's always fresh.
That's
like, dude, that's fucking smart.
Yeah, when it comes to that 131, like I expect it from Harley not to have some crazy numbers, but like the M8 itself, I would like to think and hope to think that it has the potential to open up quite a bit if you take some of the fucking factory things off of it. But to me, it's also, like I said, I'm trying to build a bike that has fun power, but also can do 1,000 miles in a day, back to back to back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, not just rip itself apart for sure.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part. We always want to build horsepower, but, guys come in all the time to my shop and they're like, they want to build a monster motor. And then they're like, then I want to, ride it to Sturgis or, ride it to the East Coast. I'm like, well, you kind of have to pick one or the other. You can't build monster numbers and then expect to ride this thing across the country and not have any issues.
Yeah. It's like you were saying, the 120R motor, we used to, back in the big wheel days, we'd see those a lot. But we'd see a lot of overheating issues with those motors. And then I think they came out with the 120R ST motor, the street motor or some shit.
Yeah.
It was supposed to help the heating issues.
Yeah, just a detuned version of it,
Well, I feel like if you just put like a really good oil cooler on there, maybe with a fan, it'd probably help out with the heat.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, these air-cooled motors need all the help they can get to keep cool. And it doesn't help, when you're trying to build performance out of them, bumping compression up and, pouring it, you're just making the thing run even hotter and you just can't keep up.
Dude, I'm not trying to super plug them right now, but, because they are a sponsor of ours, but dude, that Thundermax has that fan system for the M8 touring models. That shit made a difference in, because I have a heads-up display similar to what, like, you do a Power Vision with Thundermax. They have their own that tells you engine vitals, things like that. And when I rode to Cali originally, dude, my motor was running so fucking hot, and I was nervous because I'm like, oh shit, like maybe it's a fucking, it's sumping or whatever the case may be. And then I talked to like Jimmy at Horsepower Inc. I talked to the dudes at Thundermax. They're like, dude, we've seen M8 motors running around at like 300 and something degrees, like 320 degrees. You know what I mean? And I think that is it 300 degrees? What is it? It's about 300.
Yeah, it's about 300. Yeah.
Is that the average or is that high?
On the M8, I think that's pretty average.
Okay, so then it was almost 400 then. It was really a high end, right?
Yeah.
It was something that I was like, this don't sound right. Because I think maybe right now I'm averaging about 300. And when I put that fan on, it took me to almost, I don't know. It seems weird because they don't say that on their deal. But I went from like ranging from like, I guess, 360 to almost 400 in just temperature to 300 to 330, basically. So the shit made a difference in my opinion, if that's where it needs to be. Which
yeah. And there's a difference too. Like the M8s read a little bit hotter on the temperature. It's not that they necessarily are actually running a whole lot hotter than the twin cam. It's more about where the placement of that sensor is located.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sportsters are the same way. The Sportsters read pretty high on head temp, but it's because of where that location of that sensor is at.
Yeah, that makes sense. I heard that thing. It just wasn't coming to mind just now.
Yeah, but I mean, for sure though. I mean, like a good oil cooler, fans. I mean, anything that you can do to move some air across those cylinders, like it's gonna help. It ain't gonna hurt nothing.
Yeah,
you know.
So I used to like have this mentality that like, you know, like, oh, Leading Edge should do, you know, my motor because I put miles on it. But then I was like, man, I don't want to be the dude testing these motors out in the middle of nowhere and some shit pops and I'm constantly missing out on road trips because I'm testing and tuning shit for people, you know?
Sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's hard. Like it's that constant battle of what's cool and what works good because they're never the same thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, if you want to ride your bike and jam out miles and ride across the country, you can't have the stripped down fast bike and then ride across the country. Like,
yeah. Well, it's the same thing with like a fully customized, painted up bike. You ride that thing across anywhere. You get on the highway long enough, you're going to catch a rock chip in the fairing. It's going to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and you know, especially like those FXRT fairings that are very popular right now. I'm not a fan of the fiberglass ones from any manufacturer. The only one that I've seen so far that has the highest quality is a TOL fairing, which is out of Vegas. But and Sean's my dude, and I love him to death. But I'm not the biggest fan of the look of it 100%. But it's just because he makes them wider to fit the wider front ends for the baggers in them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it still looks good. Like we have a bike downstairs, got his kid on it. It looks like a fucking beefy ass bulldog when you look at it in the front. But like some of these fairings, they're you know, because when they make those RT fairings, they're multiple molds. Oh yeah, he froze up for a minute. And we're back.
Now back to our
Yeah.
regularly scheduled program here.
So what I was saying is like the RT fairings from most companies like Russ Warmount and you know, name your company, they are multiple pieces like molds that they have to mold together to make one piece afterwards, right? Because you can't lay up an inner and outer fairing like that in one piece and pull the mold off. It's impossible. So what happens is you have a lot of seams everywhere. And then this fiberglass is very thin because it all has to seam together and still fit with tolerances. So you have thinner fiberglass. They end up becoming very heavy. And when you get on the road and you travel with them, those fiberglass bolt holes in all those areas that hold that shit together, they start stress cracking. Those stress cracks can go through the entire fairing. It's a fucking nightmare of a shit show.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are buying them used, already painted, chipping off, and going, hey, bro, you know, I want you to paint this fairing. And I'm like, dude, like, I don't know who painted that. I don't know if they did it right. I'm not painting my shit over the top of that. You either need to buy a new fairing. No, you have to buy a new fairing because I'm not going to strip that fairing. It's too hard to strip paint off a fiberglass fairing that has all those nook and crannies and then do the body work. It's not worth it. You're going to pay me $1,000. You could buy another one for $700, dude. Just do that. You know? Yeah. It's a weird place, man.
It is for sure. I mean, you know, I got one on my Road King. You know, I run a fiberglass.
Whose fairing is it?
It's a Connolly's.
Connolly's. I would say that the Connolly's, they're not in business anymore, to my knowledge.
I don't think so. Yeah, I think they're gone.
I never did one of their RT fairings, but I used to love the fuck out of their T-Sport fairings because of how thick they were and they were finished inside and out. You know what I mean? They were nice, really nice in my opinion.
It's pretty. I was impressed with this one. I mean, it is thick. It's super thick all the way throughout.
Yeah, that's kind of good. I mean, it's probably heavy, but it's stout.
It is heavy. You know, it's a pretty stout deal. I mean, I had to build a mount for it. You know, and I had to take a lot of material out of the inside of that one to fit the touring bike front end on it.
Yeah.
You know, especially with the inverted forks and stuff that are even, you know, beefier inside there. So, but yeah, I mean, I definitely, you're right. Like that fiberglass stuff is just the vibration of these bikes it's just going to tear that shit apart.
And dude, sure. I have a fairing from Deviant Fab Works here. and I have a set of bags from another company that were both previously painted by someone else. And I painted the fairing a couple years ago, but it was painted originally by somebody else. And so like, you know, when, like, say if you hit me up and say, I want you to paint this shit, there's a difference between restoring a part and just repainting a part or putting artwork on it. So restoring would be me stripping that fairing down, doing all kinds of shit. That's a very expensive price. That's why when you have a car restored paint-wise, it's so much more expensive than just repainted. It's a play on words a little bit, but it's a difference. It's a much different process that requires a shit ton different amount of time and effort to go into it. So,
yeah, for sure. I mean, you're taking it down to nothing, fixing any imperfections and whatever in it, and then building from there. I mean, anybody can go over there and just spray over the top of whatever's there and ship it.
Yeah, exactly.
Collect a paycheck, but what's it going to look like in 6 months?
That's exactly it, man. It's doing stuff that you have to put your name on for the long term. And I'm not going to sit here and act like, I haven't just sprayed shit and let it out the door. But the older I get, the more patience I have, and the more I care about, like, not just the check I'm going to get for this job, but the potential downfall of the bad negative shit that could happen by not doing the quality work I need to do,
Yeah. We were having that conversation the other day, like about like motor builds and putting packages together, guys coming into my shop saying, I want you to build me a motor and tune it. But I've already, they've already bought a pipe and an air cleaner and a cam and whatever online or from wherever they got it. And, and then they expect these, these crazy horsepower numbers out of them. Like, you're not asking me to build you a motor. You're just asking me to assemble these parts that you've already bought, that who knows if these things work well together or not.
Yeah.
Who knows, they might all be good parts individually, but maybe they don't work well together.
Yeah.
And if you want me to put you a package together that I've tested and I know works well, you got to come to me before you start buying shit.
Exactly. That's a great point. Because my personal friends that are in similar industry or businesses like you, where they build motors and do a lot of performance stuff, they're the same way. They've tested and tuned in multiple pipes on bikes, M8s, twin cams, Evos, and they found good combinations that work for them as a shop. And that's one of those things that you're paying for when you deal with a quality shop. You're dealing with experience, not chat room fucking chatter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's, and it's so hard to tell a guy that, your brand X pipe that you just bought because you saw a bike on Instagram that you love is going to work good with this cam and this air cleaner. It's just the truth of it, though. I mean, that pipe looks badass sitting on a bike on Instagram with the sunset behind it. But if you want it to build horsepower numbers, you need this, and so, it's a constant battle. That's the cool thing about Instagram, but that's also the hard part. Like, you probably deal with it in paint. Like, oh yeah, I saw this bike. It looks like this. It's painted like this. And I want you to paint it like that. And maybe it's not your style.
Oh, all the time. I mean, for sure. I mean, that's happened a million times. But, the good thing is, like, my audience probably hate me for bringing this up again, but like, I just became friends with a lot of the top painters. So when they, like, say if you were hitting me up and you showed me 5 images from Taylor Schultz, I really like this, and I would just reply with Taylor Schultz's cell phone number.
Yeah.
Right.
And
that is the gloriously great thing about the internet, is that there's enough to go around. So it's really easy once you trust me, I worked in the industry where, like, I wouldn't let anything leave my door. You know? And that bit me in the ass more than anything, because I would always bend to meet the customer's needs, wants, and whatever they have in mind, just to get the job and just to have that reputation with this customer now. And, you have to convince yourself to do these things you don't want to do or you're not capable of or whatever. And then next thing you know, you didn't do something you enjoyed doing. You did a shitty job at it because you may not know how to do it, or it might not be your thing. And it's just a shit show in general, like the whole thing. So if you just would have said no in the beginning and walked away, you'd have lost the money and maybe a potential long-term customer, but you saved yourself from being a burden to the customer and yourself. You know what I mean? It's It's a crazy one.
It's weird. I mean, but I think that, everybody, in our position that has a shop, I think we all have to kind of go through that phase.
Yeah.
Because we don't all just jump into this industry and have that credibility
For sure.
to be able to just tell a customer, go call that guy then, or go down to this shop or whatever. We all kind of have to whore ourselves out for a little while.
Agreed.
Until we can get things rolling.
That's a good point, and I'm glad you brought that up because I don't ever emphasize on that. Because I always talk about the end result of all the crackhead shit I've done in my life to get to this point.
but it's gotten to where you are now.
Exactly. So thank you for
bringing
bringing
it up. Was it the right or
up.
wrong thing to do at the time? Like looking back now, it's like, man, why did I do that shit?
Yeah.
But if you didn't, you probably would be, sitting behind a desk right now, like, punching numbers into a computer.
I've installed so many LEDs in my life that I feel like, and there's, as much as I don't like them and I never would do them in my shop ever again, that shit paid my rent at least 4 or 5 times in my life. You know what I mean?
You're talking like the little LED strips? Yeah. Fuck that stuff, But people ask me to do it, and I'm like, and anymore, I'm like, I'll do it. But I'm going to charge you out the ass because I'm going to do it right, because I'm going to make it so that the next time I have to work on your bike, I can just unplug everything rather than have to rip that shit all out. And but yeah, you're right. We've all done those jobs that we ain't proud of.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, we're just trying to make a living.
Yeah.
We still got rent to pay and food to buy and all that kind of shit. So, we have to go through those as a independence, trying to build our shop and our brand. You gotta go through the motions.
So, on that same note, like one of the things that I did to help slim or trim the fat, if you will, is at one point in time, you could come to the Fast Life Garage, which was a different name at the time. And we had a guy that built motors. We had every parts company on hand. We had a fabricator. We had a dyno. We had everything. And we had a fucking fat bank account because I had big investment. He's frozen again. Fuck. Wait for him to come back. I caught you.
We're back.
Yeah, I caught you at that one. No, so I had a big deal shop kind of thing going on. And in your head, when you're trying to build a business, you keep adding on these more layers of things. And so for like the shop you have, that's a dream shop of mine, but at the same time, that dream might require me to do things that would make my day-to-day not as happy as I would be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I would have to keep up with that demand of the cost of that shop or that storefront or whatever.
100%, yeah.
And so I chased that for a while and found myself unhappy, not with where I was every day, but just not feeling fulfilled with the work I was putting out, not feeling like I was able to put the kind of effort into every job that I'm capable of. Mm-hmm. And I had to restructure my whole everything and find a happy medium of someplace comfortable, inspiring to be at for the majority of my day. And then, but not so burdening, like so much of a burden that I couldn't enjoy the fruits of all the labor I'm putting into this shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes it's like cutting things out. So like I said, we used to do bars. We used to build bikes. We used to do shit like that. But as well as I know that building a bike is not as profitable as the world makes it look like,
Oh, yeah.
Especially not for us.
Really.
Yeah, especially not for guys like us that are really on the outskirts of the mecca of what it is. Like if we were in San Diego and we had some crazy bikes like what you have and what I've built in the past, I bet we can sell some $80,000 performance bike builds. Right?
Well, there's tons of people and a ton of people with money.
Yeah, the motorcycle culture is much more ingrained into their lifestyle down there than some other areas where it's just a hobby.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It brings me to another point. Like you guys got legalized lane splitting out there in Utah. Is that still going on?
It's happening. So it's not like full-on lane splitting like they do in California.
It's filtering, basically.
It's filtering. So yeah, it's like on highways like 45 miles an hour and under. 2 lanes going, at least 2 lanes in the same direction type stuff. Yeah. So it's a step in the right direction. I think it's a good thing. but it's not full on filtering like, you see in California where like dudes are just blowing by you on the freeway.
We had that here, dude. I'm interesting to see how that does with the culture. So my theory is, if you make the riding more accessible, easier for commuters every day to go to work by taking the bike, even if it's like the weather, like y'all got way shittier weather than we get. We kind of here in Dallas have a full year riding season. We only see like 30-degree temperatures for very short spells. We rarely get snow. We rarely see ice, maybe every once in a while, right? But if lane splitting was legal here, and our traffic is pretty bad, it's not LA bad, but it's bad for where we're at. More people would ride every day. It would become more a part of the individual's life being on a bike every day. You know what I mean? I mean, he might have bought that lowrider or that fucking street bob or that Sportster or maybe even a sport bike for the commute and, maybe a little bit of enjoyment for riding. But I think that everyday riding, it'll become more of who he is as a person. Yeah. And it'll help brand or breed off a much more diverse and deeper rooted connection to motorcycle society, like what we see in California and Phoenix. You know what I mean? I think it would help industry boom. So if anything, I wish the powers to be in our industry was out there really going to bat, which they may be, and I just don't know about it, for like legalizing lane splitting, because it's safer for us to do it nationwide. It'll take a while for the states to get on board and the people to really like understand that what we're doing is legal. But I think it would really boost the motorcycle economy nationwide if that was legal everywhere.
Yeah, I could buy into that idea. I could see that. Like if no matter what it is, if you make it more convenient, it'll get used more. So if it's easier to commute on a motorcycle because I can split lanes. Yeah. Like if I walk out to my garage and I can get to work in 20 minutes on my bike or 45 minutes on my car, like, by nature, like whatever's more convenient, people are going to do.
It's easier to park too, because you work in an urban area. You don't have to pay the same fucking $45 a week for a parking spot in a parking garage. Like there's so many of those little underlying things that I think a lot of us don't ever really pay attention to. But you have more people riding bikes on the road. Then you have more people that need maintenance work. You need more people with service, which is the same fucking thing. But it breeds more economy, more financial influx, more stimulus into our motorcycle economy, and it helps all these brands grow. It helps shops like yourself grow. It helps everything. So I feel like it's in the best interest of the entire motorcycle industry to do that. And I also think that like it's not going to happen overnight. Like you don't legalize lane splitting and all of a sudden a year later you have this booming motorcycle economy. It'll grow. But I think over 5 years, over it becoming a part of the culture in that state of knowing that bikes lane split, more people jump on them, it'll start to ingrain and become a bigger thing over time.
Yeah. It's a very small piece of the giant picture, but it's all those little things that will add up and make this industry either grow or shrink over the next 5, 10, or 20 years. They say that like the industry is slowing down, that there's not as many riders and there's not as many people buying motorcycles anymore. And what are the people within the industry going to do to turn that around and change that curve?
I mean, Instagram seems like it was a cool way to like expose people to different styles or different subcultures of motorcycles, but it doesn't really solve the fact that like you get online and you make all these friends that we talked about, all these friends in this style of bike, and then you go outside of your Oklahoma City town and there's 2 of you, and then y'all got in a fight last week at the bar. You know what I mean? So it's like now there's 1 of you. You know what I mean? So it's like this rich culture of bikes online and this fucking half-ass version of it in real life. You know what I mean? That's kind of why we do our camp out. We try to bring people together, We try to push them to come together to try something like riding, to do these things, to try to just get people into riding, get people into traveling, get people into, doing more on their bike than going to the local bar or the local bike night or the fucking the show that's down the street. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. But I mean, all those things, no matter what they are, whether they're, bike shows, bike nights, campouts, all that stuff, like it's all so important to the culture though.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's all part of it, if there wasn't something to go ride to.
Yeah. The riding would be fun. Like, I mean, we all get on a bike, right? The first day for sure, to maybe it's 2 weeks or maybe it's 2 months for you. That shit is exhilarating every time you jump on that fucking thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it wears off just like every amazing feeling. It's not that it's not amazing anymore. It's just that it's known now. You get 120 horsepower motor, that shit feels good, but a couple months later, man, it just don't feel as fast as it used to be.
Yeah.
You're used to it.
Yeah, you get used to it. And so the newness wears off, and it's like a girlfriend. Like, it's super fun at first, and then like after a while you're like, nah, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's time for a new one,
So, you kind of brought it up. It's like, whose responsibility is it? Is it our responsibility as industry people to grow the industry, grow the desire to ride bikes? Is it the brands? Is it the motor companies? Is it who does that fall on, and who gets the blame if it fucking crashes? That's the question.
I don't know, man. I don't think there's a right answer to that. I mean, who has the most to lose, though? You know what I mean?
I mean, we all got something to lose, and it's the most to all of us.
Right. And you could look at it and be like, well, okay, like if this shit all goes south and this industry just disappears in 10 years, you could look at it like on a numbers, like a dollar wise, like Harley Davidson probably has the most to lose because they're the biggest player of all of it. They're the center of all this shit. So they got the most to lose. So it's up to them.
True.
But at the same time, if they don't do it, if they don't give a shit, which I don't think they do right now, which is another big pet peeve of mine. But if the industry doesn't turn around, I got everything I own is wrapped up in this building.
Yeah.
My whole life's wrapped up in this building. So I got a lot to lose. So, I'll take some responsibility in doing my part to try and grow the culture.
For sure.
In my little small portion of this world.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that it all kind of comes down to all of us. But I do believe that honestly, I believe that Harley Davidson is in a unique, situation. They have something that, no other brand in the world has.
Yeah, none.
So I think
all right, hold on. It's commercial break time. Hold that thought. Come on. Come back. All right.
back. Yeah.
Say that again. That was a good point.
So I was just saying that, like, so Harley Davidson as the motor company has a huge role in this. Like, they have something that nobody else has. No brand in the world, I believe, has. They have a brand that, think of all the brands and companies and shops that are underneath Harley Davidson that are all built around the Harley Davidson motorcycle.
Yeah.
I mean, it's huge.
That family tree is deep.
And it's this whole, it's huge. And if they don't take care of it, and if they don't give a shit about the people at the grassroots level, if they just forget about those guys, what they've built over the last, 115 or 20 years or whatever it is now, it's all going away and it'll never come back. Never.
It'll be like
I think a lot of it will fall on them.
Yeah. That's a good point, man. That's a real good point.
Like, you name me one brand that has the type of subcultures underneath it, like Harley Davidson.
I mean, there's tons of brands that have like small niches, like you got your Corvette crew with all their New Balance shoes and things like that. But, you really don't have an across the board heritage or, diverse age group kind of deal where you can buy into Harley with a basket case fucking Sportster or a fucking 40,000 plus CVO. You know what I mean? It's such a vast spectrum of things. I mean, you want to be in a Corvette club or a Mopar club, like that's usually a finite amount of money to get into it, or it's a lot of money. That's a better word. And then, like for us, like sometimes those little Sportster guys or those little basket case builders, they end up evolving into all the other models over the years. You know what I mean? But the question, I guess, is like, not to just be a Harley basher here, but like that whole corporate, just like the way corporations work, it's like it's not designed to continue to build on the culture. It's designed now to capitalize off their culture. So right now they're digging in and taking everything they can get out of it. They're not replenishing it with much other than, you know, a set of lower fairings and a new quarter fairing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They're not putting enough back into it like you're saying, but they're trying to get everything out of it to fulfill shareholders and financial obligations and things that don't really have anything to do with the actual culture or the actual bike that they've built. You know what I mean? I would say the Indian's doing more right now. You know?
I think so too.
And,
you know,
and I feel like I need to go lash myself, you know, 15 times for that or however much you're supposed to do it. But I'm not an Indian fan at all, but I will give them credit for investing in their future like Harley needs to do.
Yeah.
You're always investing in your future. We talked about it at the beginning of this podcast. You're constantly setting goals, and those goals are for you to grow as a mechanic, a fabricator, a shop owner, all those different hats. That's what Harley needs to do. Yes, you're trying to make money still to sustain the business and make a profit, but you have to keep innovating, creating things. And like you said, you're still, you know, the build off between you and Brian at TPJ. That's culture. You're creating a culture. You're creating a movement or things around you guys that doesn't cost me anything to get involved with what you guys are doing, to see it, to experience it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, we're just putting a little bit of what we do into the culture and showing it off. And in turn, it's going to create, you know, it's going to inspire guys to do shit to their bike, build bikes, buy parts, or go to shows, go to bike nights, go to campouts.
Yeah.
All because of, you know, something they saw on Instagram or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, you know, it takes all of us to do our part and put a little bit back out there to keep it moving. And I don't see that the motor company sees it that way. Like you said, a corporation is just that. I mean, is it their job? Is that what corporations do? Do they grow the culture? No, that's not what they do. They are looking at, you know, their profits at the end of the year and how much their shareholders are going to make. That's all they give a shit about. But I just think that's great if you're, you know, whoever, whatever other corporation, you know. But the difference between everybody else and Harley Davidson is just that, like, nobody has what Harley has, and without this subculture, they ain't shit. They're gone.
You know, there's this other point, like, and I'm guilty of this too, is like, you know, when you look at other industries, let's say outside the motorcycle industry, you look at like the hair and makeup industry or the fucking video game industry. These companies that make money, they funnel it back into the people that help sell their products, and Harley doesn't do that, right?
No, yeah.
And you know, neither does a lot of the bigger companies in our scene. Like, they might do it on some levels that's not very obvious, you know what I mean? But it's also not Performance Machine's responsibility to carry this industry. It's not so much Vance and Hines' responsibility, even though we all know that they do a lot. You know, Roland Sands does a lot with the Hooligan series and shit. And, you know, you see all these people like trying to make positive investments into like different cultures or different parts of our industry to help the growth. But I wonder if it's like racing isn't as you know, sorry for people that don't like to hear this, but maybe racing isn't as popular as it once was amongst people. Maybe like I can dig it. I'm not into it like I want to do it, but maybe the millennials that we were talking about, that doesn't pique their interest. Like how does motorcycling evolve into something that shows them like this could be cool? You know, because they don't have the emotions connected to things, or you know what I mean? They're emotionless creatures. I'm a millennial.
Yeah. How do you connect to that person though? You know what I mean? Like, how do you connect with someone that, you know, has grown up with an iPhone in their face, and the only enjoyment they get out of life is, you know, memes and, you know, Instagram photos and YouTube videos and like.
See, I think, you know, to be more exact, and like the millennials aren't really the issue, because I'm like first year millennial, like 82 when I was born is like, I think the first year. My brother's 96, which is I think the last year of millennials, right? And my brother's all into this shit. He's hook, line, and sinker, but he's 25, right? I think it's the next generation, which I think is the Gen Y, that are coming into their that haven't really grown up in the dirt bike scene. I mean, the dirt bike world, like the dirt bike racing, freestyle motocross, I don't follow it that much, but just from the outside looking in, it feels like that shit was hot as fuck from like 99, 01 to like maybe 2008, 2009. That shit was everywhere. X Games, MTV, all that shit. I don't really see much of it anymore. It's like
yeah, as far as the freestyle movement goes, yeah, 100%. Like it came on. I followed it because I was riding a lot of motocross in the 90s. When the freestyle movement kind of came on, and when I was riding and racing, as a teenager, freestyle was unheard of.
Yeah.
So I watched the whole evolution of it. The first dudes doing little tricks here and there, and to just watch it, explode over the next like 10, 15 years or whatever, 20 years.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you don't see any of it now. Like you couldn't sell a ticket to a freestyle motocross event now, if you had to.
So
it's just,
so when you think about that is like us as more or less millennials, if you will, doing things in our early teens and early 20s, like getting into that type of shit. Mm-hmm. Right. And then, then you take your people that were born in like 97, 98 or 96, whatever the case may be, who kind of grew up with the internet and might've thought that shit was cool. But I mean, at the time when that shit was going on, they were like 8, 9 and 10. So maybe some of them were riding dirt bikes, but a lot of them probably were fucking playing Pokemon and shit. And whatever those cards were, they'd fucking trade and shit. And so like you don't have the same youth playing outside and playing on things and building ramps and riding dirt bikes in 50s. It's a much different culture that's breeded more of maybe a homebody, someone that wants to live their life through social media or online or all that shit. And I don't think that we'll ever be able to appeal to the Gen Y people who are soulless, basically.
Yeah, it's tough, dude, and that's bad news for us in the industry. Yeah. You know what I mean? It really is. I mean, it's kind of scary. I mean, yeah, these kids, like I said, I got young kids that are, in that generation, and they don't, I'm buying them dirt bikes and doing this, and like, they would just assume watch someone play a video game on YouTube. I'm like, you're watching someone else play a video game?
Yeah. Like,
really? Like, let alone, like, I would rather you play a video game.
Yeah. He's paused again. Skype is fun. Sorry, audience. It's all good. It's a great conversation, though. I feel like we got like a 10-minute window each time.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, man. We could almost set the clock by it. Yeah,
it seems like it's like too many people doing it. But yeah, go ahead.
Like with my kids, it's like I have to, tell them like go outside, turn that shit off, turn your phone off, put it away, go outside. I don't care what you do. Go out there, get dirty, break something, throw a rock through the neighbor's fucking window. I don't care. Something besides.
Go find some dirty mags in a field.
Yeah. But it's a tough gig. It's going to be hard for the industry going forward to try and figure out how to attract new riders.
Yeah.
Because it's going to have to take all of us to do it, but it isn't going to be easy.
Yeah, I would almost say that like it needs to be like a big push. You got to think like where does a lot of like the newer people get their media now? And a lot of it's YouTube, but a lot of the things on YouTube are really great content for someone like me that can watch, you working on your bike and turn it into something cool, or some dude doing a cross country, travel. But, to someone that's never done any of these things, it's probably not going to be as entertaining as, something that like, oh, I can go buy a $50 video game. I don't know how to play it. So let me watch this dude play it and see how he plays and then go try to do it. As opposed to like watching you, build a motor and you're sitting there with thousands of dollars worth of tools and equipment. It's just a much more expensive thing to buy into. And it's hard to even imagine like motorcycles being phased out as a whole, but they're only 100 years old,
Right.
Or 115 or whatever the case may be. So it's not like it can't happen. You know what I mean? baby boomers can die off and Harley can struggle. Then the Gen X can die off, and then millennials will die off, and then you'll have a couple stragglers still buying '04 Dynas from Gen Ys.
Yeah.
And then after that, there ain't shit, man. You know?
No, it is kind of, it's, you know, super hard to wrap your head around. Like, could there be a world with no motorcycles in it? You know, and like for us, it's like, that doesn't even seem possible.
But I will go back on that, is that if you go into other cultures where motorcycling is much more embraced as a culture, like Europe, you know, with people using like smaller Vespas, things like that, as a more of a practicality thing, they seem to have strong, you know, maybe not the kind of customization culture that we have, but motorcycles play a big role in society. So that's why I was kind of getting back to the whole idea of making it ideal on a practical level for more people to ride bikes, because it makes life easier. Yeah. And going on that approach, as opposed to like, hey, let's put fucking electricity on this motorcycle and that'll make people want to buy a $30,000 bike. Yeah. I don't believe so.
You know, if you look back, you know, on the past 100 years, anything that has made life easier, you know, whatever invention it is, like if it's made something easier, it works. Yeah. I mean, no matter if you make it more, you know, convenient, quicker, faster, whatever. Yeah. It's, you know, it's successful no matter what it is. Cause people are, you know, in general are lazy. Yeah. You know, and so anything that you can do to make life easier.
Yeah. I would say it's laziness too, but it's all about like, as we all evolve as society, I feel like we all wear more hats nowadays than we had to in the 80s, you know, which I was a kid in the 80s, but my parents, you know, like they didn't have to, you know, you could buy a house in the 80s with just having a job. Your credit score didn't mean shit. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Then in the 90s, and then that shit turned into this, and then credit cards and online sales. It got to where it was a lot more difficult to live a life these days, right? So as things go, like things like going to Blockbuster used to be something I was stoked about on Friday night when my buddy was coming to spend the night with me. That shit evolved into something called Redbox. It was sitting at the front of every place that you had to go to. You had to go to the grocery store or Walmart. On the way out, let's rent this movie for $1. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you're probably going to bring your fucking dumbass back to Walmart tomorrow to pick up something else you forgot. So you'll fucking drop it off. So it was ideal. And then the digital age really took form and made it to where it's like, why am I going to go pick it up and drop it off? I'll just order this shit right now and watch it right now. So I wouldn't say that it's laziness. I think that, like, why would I go to the store? I mean, it is laziness by definition. But
it is in some cases, but I think you're on the right track. Yeah. Like, you know, we have to be more efficient in our lifestyles anymore to survive. You know, we don't have a ton of time. Like, we have to bust our ass and work a lot to just get by, just to own a home and pay our bills. So we have very limited time. So yeah, like if I can rent this movie at fucking Redbox, rather than have to now drive across town to Blockbuster. Yeah. I can just rent my movie right here while I'm here. Like it's convenient, it's easy, and that's why it works for that short window.
It's one less line I got to sit in.
yeah, right. You know, but I don't know, man. I miss the days of old Blockbuster,
I do too.
I remember walking in Blockbuster, you spend like fucking 4 hours in there because you could never like decide what you wanted to watch, you know?
Yeah. It was something cool, man. Like it was a great experience, you know, just to be able to do that. And the video games, like, you know, video games back then, like, I'm a big video gamer, if you will, but the games we play nowadays, like, I'll play them for fucking 4 weeks and have 120 hours into playing this game. There's no way I could go rent that from Blockbuster and knock it out in 3 days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Or even way back, like I used to love going like to the mall and playing in the arcade, you know?
Yeah.
Like that shit, you know, like my kids have no clue what that is.
Just the mall in general, man. Like I say that like I miss it, and then we still have malls here, but dude, they're fucking hood as shit, dude. Like, it's like, you know, trust me, I like to go. I'm a shoe freak. I love shoes, but they make malls hood as fuck.
Yeah. We still have one here in Ogden, like in Salt Lake. Like they got like these new like big like outdoor like shopping complexes.
Yeah, that's where a lot of people are going to. Yeah.
But like a legit like mall, they're they're ghetto.
But you used to be able to go them. They had a food court. You could pick up chicks. You could go on a date to the mall. Like it was like something that was, you could do it, and you could walk around, spend time. You didn't really have to spend any money. Yeah, it was a fucking experience, man. It's just, yeah, dude.
Well, it's just a place to be, and then like just like a girlfriend, like the excitement wore off, and we're looking for something new again.
Yeah.
You know? So
you know what I miss? I miss fucking street racing. Did you ever get into that growing up?
Not a ton. We didn't really do any street racing. What we used to do a lot here is just like cruising the Vard, like just cruising up and down, like, you know, yelling at people in other cars. And we didn't really race a whole lot, but not street racing, but cruising the Vard was something we used to do. Like when we were in high school, like that was the shit to do, like on Saturday nights.
Yeah, man. I miss that shit a lot because, I mean, I've seen people get shot at those things before, but it still felt like really cool as fuck. I remember the first car meet I ever went to. So I kind of grew up in a body shop painting cars, or not actually doing it, but just working for my dad and shit. And I remember when the Fast and the Furious first came out, the first one, and just watching that movie, and then like that first opening scene where they're all hanging out before they race, and everybody's got their hoods open and shit. I was driving home from work one day, and I saw a parking lot at an old mall that was kind of shutting down. And it was covered in like cars and neon lights. I was like, "That's not what I think it is it?" And I went over there and checked it out. I was like, "Fuck, it's just like the movies and shit, man." I fell hook, line, and sinker into that shit. You know, and that shit ruled my life for like 5 years, man. Got into the car game real hardcore, you know. Yeah. But I miss that shit, man. Just that cheap, like, I've replaced hanging out in parking lots with dudes with like going to bars and just getting fucked up all the time now. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like I never really drunk as a kid. I didn't drink a lot. I would go to these little car meets, hang out, look at this dude's like purge system on his nitrous or some shit, or, you know, and then we cruise the highway and look for people to race on the highway or some shit, you know? It's so cheap, so easy.
yeah, it was. But, you know, it like everything else, it all comes to an end, you know?
Yeah.
So.
It's wild. Well, shit, man, what else you got going on this year before we start wrapping this up? So, just trying to make it through the virus?
Yeah, I guess that's step one. Yeah, get through this shit and get to the other side of it. You know, so I'm just starting on my Sportster build that I'm going to do with Brian. I'm going to start working on kind of hyping that up. Maybe make it like a little like mini event showcase that maybe we can turn into maybe a long-term thing.
Yeah.
You know, see what happens with that. So got that going. I'm still working on my website, trying to get it launched. So yeah, my plan is.
Oh, you're fucking up. One more commercial break. You still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. I thought we were going to commercial break again.
I think we did for a split second there.
Cool. But yeah, so like you're planning on having this done for Sturgis. Hopefully Sturgis is going to happen. I don't think it might not officially happen, but people are going to go to Sturgis. That's going to happen.
Yeah, it'll be crazy. I don't know. I mean, you know, it's crazy. Like if this shit's still going on, if this COVID-19 shit's still going on in August, like we're going to be in a bad spot in this country. But
we're gonna have factions. You know, it's going to be Red Dawn up in this bitch.
So, but yeah, I hope this shit. I think this shit's going to get over here in the next couple of weeks. Sturgis will happen. I'm hoping it's, you know, even bigger than it was supposed to be because of all this shit. But yeah, hoping to have this bike for Sturgis. I'll be on the V-Twin Visionary Smoky Mountain Tour this year. You know, and we never really even talked about my racing thing. Like this year, I actually committed. I was going to actually race the entire Roland Sands, Super Hooligan Series this year. I was going to do every race they had, and I made it to 2, and then all the shit got canceled.
Yeah.
So racing stuff's kind of been put on hold for the moment. I don't know what's going to happen with all the races after this shit's done. But I'll probably still hit a bunch of races later in the year. I'll be racing in Sturgis for sure.
That's cool.
You know, as long as they're having races, I'll be there. So, yeah, that's kind of my plans for the year is get this Sportster built for Sturgis, maybe do some racing, get my website launched, and just keep pushing forward.
Nice. Well, shit, man. I'll let you get back to it. I appreciate you doing this. Sorry we had all these technical difficulties.
No, no
trying
worries,
to get
man.
it rolling. I'm not really proficient with this Skype thing, but the
Yeah.
phone call, dude, I hated doing phone call podcasts because you know when you talk on the phone, like you just walk all over the house. You know what I mean?
I do the same thing.
Yeah, I can't do that. So I get agitated, like sitting here holding a phone or whatever the case may be. So it's like being able to see the social cues of going back and forth it makes the conversation way more tolerable for us not being in the same room. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, for sure.
But I appreciate you doing this, man. And I'm looking forward to seeing all the stuff that you're creating. Like I said, I've I've been following you since I saw your bike, man. So, keep building badass shit like that.
Yeah, for sure.
But
sure,
tell
man.
everybody where at least your website. You have the website up. You just don't have the store, right?
I have a website right now, kind of the one we initially created when I first opened, and it's pretty, kind of just right now. It's just kind of like an information and like who we are, what we do, where we're at, type shit.
Yeah.
We're actually building a new site that's going to have e-commerce stuff on it.
Cool.
That's just turning into a bigger project. We actually have probably close to 5,000 part numbers that'll be on the new site. Yeah. So there'll be a lot of stuff to buy on there.
See, we're working on an e-commerce website as well, but we're going to have like 5 items.
Yeah. So like getting, like 5,000, I mean, it's close to 5,000 part numbers right now. So like 5,000 part numbers, 5,000 photos, descriptions, all the shit that's on the back end of it is super time consuming. And that's just to begin with. We'll keep adding product as we go. But the idea is to kind of have like just a lot of like very performance minded parts across the board, everything from tires, brakes, suspension, motor parts, everything, but very performance, minded stuff.
Yeah.
The stuff that, brands that we use and we know work, that we like, that support us and we support them, that type of stuff. So it's just turning into a lot of work. We'll get that thing launched here pretty quick. We're getting close.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully we'll get that going here pretty quick and get some more out there. So yeah.
Do you know what the website's going to be?
The name?
Yeah.
It'll just be tuckerspeed.com.
Cool. And that's the same for the Instagram, right? tuckerspeed.com or
yeah,
tuckerspeed at tuckerspeed.
Yeah, at tuckerspeed. Yeah.
Cool. And there, like I said, you're in Ogden, Utah, and you pretty much are a spot for service, custom builds, motor work, the whole 9 yards, right?
A whole 9 yards right now until I figure out what you figured out and just narrow it down to one thing. But as of right now, I'm trying to do it all still.
Yeah, I hear you, man. Yeah, trust me. When you start slimming down the menu, you deal with the thing that you know how to do certain things, and you want to do it sometimes. But if you do it, then you have to open the floodgates for all that shit, and that's what puts you back in that place you didn't want to be in anymore.
Yeah.
So trust me, like as a guy who has built a couple bikes in my life, there's times where I really want to be on that level with all you guys and be, respected as a peer amongst that. But I found it like building bikes for myself is the only way I can do it because of just my vision is it's hard enough for me to convince myself of my vision. But then when I have to try to convince you as a customer, it's like an added stress that I don't like dealing with it.
Yeah. So sometimes it does take the fun out of it. I guess the hope that maybe down the road at some point, you get well enough at what you do that you can demand that type of control on a build, even if it's a customer bike.
Yeah.
And you can tell a customer, fuck no, we're not using that part or whatever, because I won't put that on a bike of mine. But you got to put in the time to build that,
that reputation. Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, I agree. And that's kind of the hard thing, and it's always weird to me because like, say you're, the bike behind that you built or the ones that I've kind of customized over my time. It's like, if those bikes inspired people to want to have you do the work for them, then why won't you, like trust your judgment on everything, So that's kind of the weird place,
Yeah, it's a weird spot, and people, they have these visions in their head and I guess you can take it, even if a guy comes to you and says, hey, I want you to paint my bike that looks like this guy's paint job, like at least he picked you. For some reason, he came to you and said, I want you to paint my bike.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he needs to respect you for what you do and your style, so it's a hard thing to deal with.
It is tough, man. And like I said, the way the world is now with social media, man, like I'm just fortunate that I can say no and still be able to eat. Because if I couldn't eat, I'd have to say yes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's only because we marketed to the United States and not to just Dallas. Once I stopped looking at Dallas as the only place I'm able to eat from, it opened my eyes and it changed everything for me to be able to demand prices within reason, not to be over the top, but just get the work I want and get the prices I want. But and then put out the work that I want to do. And dude, I turn down jobs that every day, like dudes that will spend the stupid money that our helmets cost at times, but then they'll want like something that I'm just not jazzed about doing, and saying like, yo man, like I appreciate you hitting me up, man, but I just don't think that what you got wanting to go on is up my wheelhouse, and that pisses people off.
Yeah.
It
does. And I mean, it's tough. I mean, and you don't want to piss people off, but I mean, at the end of the day, like, so you do your thing.
Yeah. So pretty much you're going to piss them off one way or the other. You're either going to piss them off by just being upfront with them and honest, or you're going to piss them off by dragging out a project you didn't want to take out, by not maybe doing the kind of quality work that you're capable of because you took a job that's not really up your wheelhouse. There's many other ways. There's pretty much all roads lead to pissing him off.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, and I find myself in that position a lot with customers. What they want me to work on a bike that, it's another brand or whatever, or
dude, those don't even started metric guys.
Yeah, and it's tough because like I feel bad for the metric dudes because there is no
there's nothing
options for those guys. I mean, dude, it's a dealership or nothing.
So where I'm at, there's really not a lot of dealerships. There's not like the closest dealership is like 20 miles away, and I live on the suburbs of Dallas. I just live on the do it yourself but broke side. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And dude, I get people that call me because they don't have on Google Maps like custom motorcycle paint, so all they have is like motorcycle repair, blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. And so I get people that come in here, and some dude's like, yeah, I traded my IROC Z for a fucking 1979 Nighthawk, and I need a carburetor for it. And I'm like, the fuck do you think I'm going to have that on the fucking wall, you dumbass?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, where can I find one? I'm like, I don't know, a Facebook forum for nerds like you that like that kind of shit. Like, that's your only option, bro.
Yeah.
It's bad, man, because a lot of dudes buy metric bikes because they want to save money. But the truth is, you're only saving money on the initial purchase. You're not saving money working on those bikes at all because there's nobody out there for it. There's not enough of a market or
there's
demand.
Nothing. Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, I turn that shit away, and people get pissed off. I mean, they're like, well, you're a motorcycle shop. You work on motorcycles, right? I'm like, yeah, but like what I know is Harley Davidson motorcycles. I don't want to work on your Honda or your Victory or whatever. Like,
yeah,
I'm sorry.
Another commercial break. All right, we're good now.
I'm back.
All right. Yeah, no, I agree, man.
Yeah, I mean, turn guys away. I mean, it is what it is. But, the thing is, you'll never make everybody happy. True. At the end of the day, like, I'm going to do what I like. I'm going to do what I want to do. And if you don't like it, then
yeah, fuck it.
Fuck off.
Yeah, it's really tough, man. Like I said, I feel bad for him because there's, it's the same thing. Like if you have an old, like, classic car that was never popular, you know what I mean? You know what it's like trying to find parts for that? You literally have to join some kind of like small group on Facebook that's into those type of cars and find out who knows everything about it. And that dude might be in fucking bumfuck Pennsylvania, and he might be the only source of information. And that's that.
That is what it is. Yeah.
You buy a Harley where there's a fucking Harley mechanic in every fucking city on just about every street in America,
Yeah.
And it's not a hard time to find someone to work on their bike or get some bars, whatever, Like, it's a benefit, of culture.
Yeah, and I think in the motorcycle industry, there's a little bit of a subculture of like these dudes like wanting to build like these little like cafe racer like little bobbers out of like old Gold Wings and CB 750s and shit. And guys call me, I'm like, that I have no fucking clue anything about that bike.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
Yeah, and that's a, like you just said, that's another little subculture of everything. It's kind of got some cool shit, but like I always tell people like same thing was going on right there. So it's like some dude hitting me up going, hey man, I really want you to do a graffiti bike for me. I'm like, I don't do graffiti. Oh, but you're a painter. You should know how to do everything, right? I'm like, no, man. He goes, well, you're a really good painter, so you should be able to pull it off. I'm like, the amount of money I'm going to have to charge you for me to learn how to do graffiti, which that's not something I even think that would happen quick enough, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it doesn't make sense. Just find a graffiti artist.
Yeah. And I told guys that exact same thing. Like, I don't know what your bike is or how it works. Like, yeah, I'm a motorcycle mechanic and I'm a badass one, but I work on a certain type.
Yeah.
If you want to pay me to drive down to the dealership and buy the service manual and then come back and read the service manual and get familiar with what I need to do to your bike before I even touch your bike, we can talk.
Yeah.
But at that moment, they're like, yeah, I'm out, you know.
It sucks, man. Like, I feel bad for them. And that goes back to that whole, like, people have a bad experience. And I just wish that, like I feel like a good business plan that'll never go anywhere would be, like, just being the guy that, like, you call me when you think about wanting to get into bikes. Let me hear what you think is cool, and I'll put you down the right path that fits your fucking personality. Yeah. I'll be like, hey, what kind of clothes do you wear? What kind of music do you like? What's a fun afternoon for you? You sound like a hipster, so you need this bike.
Yeah, for sure. You know, and it's funny, like, I mean, a lot of these dudes, like, rolling around on these, like, you know, just piece of shit, like, old Hondas, like you said, you know, sometimes you can take that guy and educate him, and then all of a sudden he goes and buys a Dyna or whatever, and you know, you open up his eyes to what he just didn't know anything about shit. Exactly. He just thought motorcycles were cool, jumped on the classifieds and bought a bike for $1,500 because that's what he had in his pocket.
So that's what I've always said about Harley salesmen. I've always said that about Harley salesmen, when, like, you get guys, especially the salesmen in a lot of places, not all places, but a lot of places, have no connection to the culture of motorcycling. They only have the connection to their dealership culture, right? Mm-hmm. Which is a much misrepresented idea of what actually is going on everywhere. Yeah. So you get these guys that come in that probably, trust me, you have to be very, you're singling people out, basically. Like, okay, this guy totally looks like he'd fit on a Dyna. This totally looks like a affliction bagger driving nerd. You know what I mean? Like, you can fit them, and if they don't know shit about bikes, then you could be like, yo, I think you're going to fit with this crowd very well. So maybe you should, you know, consider this bike and the crowd that comes along with it. Because that's unfortunately the truth. The bike and the crowd that comes along with it. Nobody wants to admit that, but fuck it, that's what it is.
It's the reality of it. It's the way the world works, you know?
Yeah. So it's crazy. Well, shit, I'll let you get to it, man. I really appreciate, dude. This is fun, man. I had a good time.
Yeah, it's a good chat, man. I appreciate your time having me on.
I missed all the fucking commercial breaks we had with this goddamn Skype shit. I think it's just because everybody's doing this, like, on the Skype shit and this stuff, that it's having a hard time keeping up with stuff.
Yeah, I've heard that, like, with Skype, and, like, my kids are using, I think it's Zoom or whatever. Yeah. Like, their fucking servers are, like, crashing because they can't keep up with everybody that's using all this shit right now.
So at least it's out. We did it, though. We got 2 hours and 45 minutes. So
that's good, man. It's good. I appreciate you having me on. I really do. You know, I listen to all your shit. You know, your podcasts keep me awake while I'm driving to all these events and shit. So it's cool to be on. I really appreciate it. And, you know, let's hook up in person sometime. We'll do this again.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna be coming through there at some point this year. So, and if not, I'll see you at Sturgis or maybe the V-Twin show. I don't know. We'll see if Jeff ever invites me. We'll see how that works.
Yeah, right.
All right, man. Thank you for doing this, and you know, have a good day, night, whatever.
Yeah, man. Have a good night. All right, man. We'll see you.
Peace. There you have it. Great conversation. Good times. Thank you, sir. Had a great time talking to you last night. You guys check out our sponsors, teamdreamrides.com, Dreamrides John on Instagram, Paint Huffer on Instagram, painthuffer.com, FastLife13 for 10% off, Thundermax EFI on Instagram, and Shop T-Max, and my dudes, Lexan Moto on Instagram, lexan-moto.com, and FastLife for 15% off. Whew. We did it. Got another one coming for you. FXR Bazaar. We've been talking forever. Me and Nick, we've been talking about doing this, and finally we're sitting down through Skype on Friday and hopefully going to be releasing that very soon. The other one we're supposed to be doing, and I'm going to have to call him out on here, and hopefully you guys can call him out and say, dude, get your shit together, is Steve fucking Chamberlain. I've been trying to do a podcast with this nerd for at least a month, and he's just too fucking cool with his White Claws and his mullet, so he won't fucking sit down and have a conversation. So anyway, you guys know him. Hit him up. Tell him to fucking do it, bro. And let's try to get that one going before next week so we can do a cool Fast Life, buddy thing. I don't know. Anyway, you guys have a good week. And we'll see you back next week with some more good shit. Peace.